I'll come in last. Okay, it's 7 o'clock, calling order today's supervisors meeting. Please rise. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First part of our agenda is the consent agenda. Board comment.
I think to move down. I'm not sure which one that we have to say. I think that's what I want to think about.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve all but item F.
The public comment. All in favor of passing the consent agenda with removing item F, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. So moving on to board motion.
You want to do item F, right?
Oh, item F, you want to do it now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, item F.
Yeah, can we give you a background on it? So, you recall that this has been through the EMA a couple of times, been through your board a couple of times, trying to get VFSA to switch to a more conventional invoicing and payment process. What you have been doing for the last 5 decades is they send you an invoice and they pay the invoice, they put it in the capital fund, and then they use it for the capital expenses. That was all okay. Capital expenses were pretty low. Now this year they're in a 5-year capital plan, so the capital expenses are not low. It's going to be, north of 700,000 this year. So we kicked that. It's all budgeted or all went through the EMA, so there's no the financial impact has already been realized in your rates to reflect this. It's just the administration of paying the invoice. We received the first invoice for the year. We made an attempt with the VFSA to switch that process, switch the orientation. None of the other partners were supportive of it. So the determination of the VFSA, and by that I mean it's the vote of its partners, of which you are one, was to maintain the conventional invoicing process. We did make a little headway in it, in that we're going to be involved in the construction fund and ensuring that that construction fund is managed in a way that reflects your interest. But this is to pay the invoice aligned with what the other municipalities in the BFSA are doing. And a little bit different because we initially thought we would have bond proceeds in time to do this. The bond proceeds won't be available until September. So we'll pay the invoice out of the sewer fund, and then the resolution in the consent agenda that you passed a moment ago allows us to reimburse it. So it's just a sort of a 2-month advance for the funds inside the payment of the invoice using the sewer fund. Hope that captured it. Alex, you've been at all the EMA meetings, so if I have anything to add.
You got it.
Okay.
Let me add my take on this, right? The FSA, Valley Forge Sewer Authority, is owned by 3 townships, and there are 5 subscribing townships. They're customers of it. The 3 owners own it, so if it was ever sold, they would get all the proceeds from that sale, but unless something changed. Right now, we're giving them an incredibly large contribution, definitely even larger than what we're giving them, and yet we have no ownership of the Valley Forge Sewer Authority. I think it's a ridiculous stance for us to just pay this bill when it shows up. We should certainly pay for our usage of it, right? We should pay that bill. We should take this money and put it in a escrow account until we can get them to come to the table and let us, given the amount of money we're going to be giving them, we should be part owner of the Valley Forge Sewer Authority. I know this agreement was made in the 70s and hasn't changed since then. Doesn't mean it can't change. It's just ridiculous, and I do not approve of us giving them this much money with no benefit to, I mean, I shouldn't say no benefit, but no ownership benefit to it. It's just, in my mind, it's just ridiculous.
Well, do we want the ownership benefit of that?
Well,
I mean, that's a serious question.
We have the cost associated with it, right? We're paying the millions of dollars for the repair work. So we have the cost of being an owner without any of the benefits of being an owner.
We had drafted the memo, Andy's office and Don through staff
drafted the memo basically saying we more or less reserved our rights, not to use a technical term, but saying, we reserve the right to discuss this in the future. Should you ever attempt a sale of this, we would stake a claim in ownership. So instead of having a legal fight now, it sounds like we kind of just deferred it to the future, which I think is acceptable for this.
And you don't know that you deferred it to the future because there's no plans for anyone. So this is a very remote, there's nothing that makes anyone believe that anyone is selling. No one has any indication to sell. And then by telling them that you in the resolution that you passed, you said something to the effect that you have some sense in this. Some ownership is a strong kind of lay word, but you have some sense of this, that they're not allowed to just do it without your permission, and you're entitled to proceed, things of that sort. So you're muddying it up for them. If somebody thought they could do something, you're muddying it up for them. It's a very remote thing. The choice at the time was, why spend a lot of time and money fighting over something that is not likely to ever happen? Sort of an element of that. If you fight over this, you don't know how it's going to end. It could take years, it could cost you a lot of money also.
And Alex is correct. The board has taken a public position, and the sewer authority is on notice that you're asserting a financial interest that you state that you may be able to recoup if for some reason the authority merges, goes under, or they try to sell the system. So I think that's in place already.
And we are agitators there on your behalf. So we are pressing these things were never pressed before, and we are pressing them. And the first area of the press is the construction fund, to make sure that that's aligned.
I never asked for this much before.
Yeah, to make sure it's aligned to your interests. So that's where, absent new direction from you, that's where we will be putting our efforts to ensure that the construction fund is adequate.
This difference point of view as well.
They were aligned with you. Yeah, we're the only two though, right? I would say that.
Yes, no, that's informal discussion with, you gotta ask them, but that's how I would characterize it. And Tradifferent and Easttown have taken a position like this. The others, all very respectful, all democratic, a good debate, but the other members preferred the status quo.
Yeah, I believe Tradifferent took a similar public action to Easttown.
Yes.
Using the same language.
Yes. Yeah, we worked that out together. So you have two influential municipalities making a strong stance that, from a practical perspective, provides some protection, again, against an event that is unlikely at the moment.
And my take is, we don't know what's gonna happen. Writing them a strongly worded letter is not getting anything done.
Very good, yeah.
We should be putting the money in escrow and not giving it to them until we get the whatever. I don't understand why we're doing this. So. Okay.
So I think it's just a choice for you all. The sewer fund is controlled by the township, so that's why it's before you. So we're not gonna pay an invoice of that size from it without your express permission. That's the reason why it's before you. We did have this debate at the EMA. Arguably, like at EMA, this was a discussion item in a 15-minute, and they did recommend paying the invoice in the manner that's described here.
Well, they recommended 2-1, right? That we're not, so there was a quorum of 3, not 5. And 2 of those present voted yes, 1 voted no.
Two votes of the EMA and a quorum of 3 is the same effect as 5-0 in a meeting of 5. So the EMA took a position, and that was just for the resolution. I believe they also debated this same thing a month and a half ago.
It's come up a few times.
Yeah. So that this step that they took last week was for the resolution, the joint resolution. It included the other element or the practicality of it. But I think they also voted that. I could check that, but I think that's in the minutes also.
And just for the board's background, with a second-class township, you need 3 people to convene a meeting, and you need 3 votes to act on business under the code. The Authorities Act is different. The Authorities Act says a majority of a quorum can act and transact business, so they have a lesser requirement in terms of the numbers.
So there aren't a lot of facts here. It's not like, I think you now know everything with this, and it really just comes down to a vote. If you see it the way Michael does, it's a pivot and we gravitate, or not gravitate, we switch to that direction. If you see it aligned to the EMA and how it's been presented to you, then we pay the invoice and press in the ways that I had told you.
And since you pulled this from consent, this requires a separate opportunity for public comment.
Any other board comment? It's public comment.
Yes, Jay Jansen, 2021 Grantham Ave. I also sit on the Stormwater Management Committee, so I'm remotely familiar with some of the sewer issues, but from a distance. What say do Easttown and Tredyffin combined have in any decisions at the Valley Forge Sewer Authority? And what percentage of the revenues do we represent as two townships?
We have those answers. I don't remember the exact percentages, right? Like we've discussed them before. It's a
We're providing
document.
13% of the capital fund.
And Tridiffin's probably like a 25 or 30%, something like that.
Yeah, on that scale.
Yeah.
But how much of the flow into?
So the scales are, those numbers are derived from the flows.
Okay, so if you had 13 plus 23, that's 36. So 36% of the flow into Valley Forge sewer system is represented by Easttown and Tredyffin.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the traditional numbers. It's not like the fire EMS where it's 2.5, but it's a number comparable to our number, which means that combined it's a sizable representation.
Right, and we have no say in the board.
Well, I don't say we have no say. You have the say that comes from, everybody can hire lawyers and everybody can, have that kind of say.
But the structural thing is.
Yes, the structural thing, you have less say than almost everyone was. So, and in the first 50 years, when the costs were real, it wasn't so much of a problem. And now that the costs are high, that's why we're having this kind of discussion. Your predecessor boards never discussed these things.
Isn't it like 5 million or total?
Yeah, 4.3 million.
Right. Then we get nothing for it other than continue to.
Well, no, you get the continued
Ability,
receipt
sense.
of and the processing and you're compliant with the law and all your wastewater flows there in a manner that's suitable to DEP and EPA.
I mean, this
So
is
you get something for it.
I mean, this year and last year, there were just bills that arrived and said you owe us, $20 million. Well, something crazy, and we had to figure out how to do it. So Don and John and the board kind of pushed back on that and came up with more favorable terms and questioned what was the utility, what was the need for all these expenses and stuff. So they did all the right steps.
So I think of it like an owner versus a customer. The owner of the 3 owners, yes, they should pay for all this stuff. We're a customer of theirs. We should pay the rate.
Yes, that was exactly how, we had this a year and a half ago, that's exactly how it unfolded. It's just that the majority of neither board agreed with you, but it was a reasonable position. And it's, quite frankly, it's the position we took to them initially that, now it also, Eric's question, because if they make you an owner, then you share in things that you in the current form, you might say, no, thank you, we're not owners on this one. So you do have risk if you decide to formalize your ownership. You would have risk that you don't have now. It's basically status quo versus change. The biggest way to protect your interests, as we see on the staff side, given the practicalities of it, the imperfections of it, is the construction fund. I think somebody needs to make a motion and you got to vote, right?
Do we have any other public comment?
I'm sorry, Sean. How many customers does the Valley Forge Sewer Authority have in general?
6.
8. I thought it was 5. 3 owners and 5 customers.
I think it's more aligned to that.
So out of
They're all
the 8, our 2 municipalities represent about a third of their revenues.
I'm not so sure of that either. I think it's that you represent a third of the ones that don't own it. So I don't know I don't know the flows of the owners, so.
But the owners are relatively small communities, right? It's
I don't know the flows of the owners, so the bill that you got was distributed by the flow that you send them among the 5 members that have the second tier role in it. I don't know how much that is relative to the 3 members that have the primary responsibilities or the primary ownership.
And is there a cost to this ownership that you're discussing?
I mean, 50 years ago, they were the ones that constructed it and we signed up to make payments and send our flow over there. So it was a liability back then. Now it's become an asset because a lot of these communities decide you can sell it and make money off of it.
Right, like Williston. But
They did,
they're
they did.
talking
But
about,
like many communities
Right.
across the state, yes.
thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, so motion to approve, authorize the payment of the BFSA's first capital invoice from sewer fund. Do I have a second?
One second.
Favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Right? Or nay, I'm not sure.
Ayes have it. Moving on to, board motions, presentations, resolutions. First up is the Hilltop House contract.
Yeah, so I'll set it up most generally. So extension of the contract, you've got perfect settings. They probably engaged 6 or 7 years ago. 5 years under agreement, couple of extensions. John has revised the agreement to reflect sort of the sensible, practical updates that make sense to both staff and Perfect Settings. Nicole is here from Perfect Settings. John can talk to you about any aspects of it. It's largely a continuation of the existing agreement.
John, we met, was there anything that, I'm trying to think back to where, it was a while ago, but was there anything that we pulled out or changed? I know we talked a little bit about some things, I just can't recall the little things.
Sure, so some of the items that we softened was the adjustment to the overall number of people that are allowed per event. We softened some language on the tenting and then allowing some outdoor music. So those are sort of the top 3 items. And then structurally, you've been doing 1-year renewals because of the unknown nature of the future of this building, all the construction. You've just been doing these 1-year extensions. So this is proposing a 6-year lease so that it gives stability to both sides, and we don't have to come back around every year. So number of small changes, some of it was just cleanup, some of it was observational from having a good relationship with the vendor that certain parameters could be adjusted.
Yeah,
Or just weren't necessarily to be, we never ran into that wall. So.
right, and we were talking about making sure that the community, the adjacent community was very aware of, when things were happening and so on.
Okay. So not a lot of large changes, mostly small tweaks and slight softening. Okay. And Nicole's here if you have any questions or.
So when we started this lease, it was 2019 maybe?
I think that's when you did the RFP, yes.
Yeah, it was definitely before COVID.
Just before COVID.
Right, we had set it at $60,000 then. Right, that was, and here we are 7 years later. And we're starting at 58,500. Is it because it's, I mean, it's very restrictive what they can do, right? We don't let them do hardly anything, right? Is it just learnings out of that? Was the 60,000 way too high when we started?
So you, in the last couple of years, you had adjusted down. Nicole was proposing matching this year and then moving up.
And Jerry had come in and, that's my sense of it. Jerry talked to you about the limitations of the building.
Right.
Building's covering its costs, meaning we're not, and so that was the sort of the business decision you made. In part because it's a strong, positive working relationship with Perfect Settings. And I think Nicole just continued where it was and put escalators in it, which it didn't have the last few years. It had seemingly had de-escalators.
Right. Okay. And I want to be rational about it. I don't want to be irrational. It's just kind of weird that something that was 60,000 7 years ago is now 58,000, but maybe it was wrongly priced when it was 60,000.
I think there's some point in time with the previous vendors and Nicole's taking over the business and doing some more marketing. We've certainly seen an uptick in some of the events, and different
Sure.
types of events, so.
We have a great relationship.
Thank you.
I believe.
I think to answer your question, Michael, I think it was maybe aggressive going out of it. COVID certainly impacted us greatly. Not just for that year, but weddings book a year plus out. So not being able to show the building for the whole time we were shut down. Plus then the delay of people getting back in and planning weddings for the following year is why Jerry probably came in and spoke to some of that, as well as the challenges that we run into in this space. So we constructed something where I've sort of picked up where we left off, and then we'll increase over the next 6 years.
Is there any other board comment?
Make the motion to approve the agreement,
Second.
6 years.
Second. Is there any public comment? In favor of approving the agreement with, I missed it, sorry, Perfect Bedding Catering, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Set up that next one too, if you want, Sean.
Yeah, the next thing's Old Lancaster Road.
So, I'll give you sort of an overview of the project and where it is, and then you have Chris Williams here who can talk about the preferences that they went through a nice juicy, meaty debate at the planning commission. The planning commission made recommendations on options to evaluate. I think they make sense to me. Susan, I thought they made sense to you, the ones they picked. So I think Chris and Colleen will tell you about the options, and then I think the intention is to leave the meeting knowing that the options that the township picked are the ones that Chris's team will start working on.
Do you want me to take that? Are you okay?
I'll go from here. So good to see everybody again. So just a quick background. This is the study that the board authorized a few months ago. It's the study of Old Lancaster Road, Lakeside Avenue in Berwyn, as well as the section of Old Lancaster Road that runs under the rail line. The goal of the project is to reimagine Old Lancaster Road and Lakeside Avenue to come up with creative ways to provide better pedestrian accommodations, maybe on-street parking, and most notably trying to figure out a way that we can get a pedestrian facility under the rail line, because right now it's a narrow two-lane road, which really just is accommodating vehicles and there's no way to safely accommodate pedestrians. So in order to do that, we've got to be creative in terms of how we manage traffic flow. So we had a very productive meeting with the Planning Commission about 2 weeks ago. We talked about project goals. We talked about all the existing conditions. We gathered a lot of information. We looked at traffic volumes. We looked at speed data. We looked at crash history, and it really set the stage for what it is we're dealing with today. And so we ended that discussion with, okay, Planning Commission, what are the alternatives that you want us to evaluate? We came up with 9 different alternatives in terms of how we could potentially redirect traffic in that area. The goal being, again, repurposing some of that space so it's not available for vehicles, but maybe more so available for pedestrians and parking and things. Ultimately, the Planning Commission, after a lengthy discussion, and so our proposal is to evaluate 3 alternatives plus a do-nothing option. So we will absolutely carry forward a no-build scenario. We're going to be projecting traffic 20 years into the future. That matches the horizon that we're using for the Route 30 Complete Street Study. So we'll be looking 20 years into the future. So a do-nothing alternative, which is just what happens if we leave the roads the way they are today and we just, what is it in 20 years? How does traffic operate? So we will absolutely carry that option forward. The other 3 options, so of the 9 that were sort of brainstormed and discussed with the Planning Commission selected 3 that they want us to carry forward. Those 3 options are: option 1 is just looking at the bridge and the section of Old Lancaster Road under the bridge, leaving the rest of the roads the same, other than that one section of Old Lancaster Road, simply converting it sort of to a 1-lane, kind of like a 1-lane bridge where traffic would alternate its use under the bridge. That allows us to take 2 lanes, make it down to 1, drop it to 1 lane, and the extra space could be available for some kind of pedestrian facility. So that's one option the Planning Commission wants us to evaluate. The other 2 options build on that. All options involve sort of that 1-lane scenario with the bridge so that we can get pedestrians. That, to the Planning Commission, that's the #1 goal. How do we connect the neighbors on the north side to burrow in on the south side. And so that involves this pedestrian facility under the bridge. So we're carrying that forward in all three of the options. So the other two options look at Old Lancaster Road and Lakeside Avenue south of the rail line, converting it to one-way eastbound was alternative 9 or was F, and then one-way westbound is alternative C. So those were the three. So the no build, do nothing option, and then you have those three other alternatives, all of which involve one lane under the bridge. And then we're looking at one-way flow in one direction on Old Lancaster and Lakeside, and then one-way flow in the other direction on Old Lancaster Lakeside. And the goal of that is, so Old Lancaster and Lakeside is very narrow. There are certain sections that are extremely narrow, like 20 feet, 19 feet. Then you have this section in front of School of Rock and, where sort of that commercial center is. And there's a lot of activity there. There's parents that are picking up and dropping off. There's parking. And so if we by converting it to one way, it could create an opportunity for maybe different, more efficient parking, perhaps wider sidewalks. Those are some of the ideas and some things that may come to light. So that's, again, after a lengthy discussion, those were the alternatives the Planning Commission selected. So we have been charged. And so what we're looking for today is really just asking the Board of Supervisors to confirm those choices. And then we'll be carrying those forward, running the analysis, evaluating those alternatives, and then coming back. Really, we're hoping to come back to the Planning Commission in August with our initial pass of the results of what those alternatives might mean, what works, what doesn't work. And we do fully expect that with each of these alternatives, because we're pushing traffic, right? We're changing the way traffic flows. You're pushing it from one intersection to another if you go to one way. Well, that's going to change improvements that are needed, right? So it might mean we need to look at improvements at Lakeside Avenue and Route 30, which today is just a stop controlled intersection. So does that need to be a signalized intersection if we're changing the orientation of traffic? Similarly, the complete street study has looked at different intersection improvement alternatives for Midland, Old Lancaster, and Route 30. We wanted to take a look and validate and kind of verify that those improvements are still working with these traffic flow pattern changes. So that's where we are. We have not advanced the future conditions evaluation step in the process because we wanted to, and the board wanted the opportunity to check in, get a status report on where we are, and just really confirm the guidance coming from the Planning Commission.
A couple of questions. When you say under the bridge is single lane, two-way access, how does that work?
I like a one-lane bridge. We've all been to one-lane bridges in rural parts of Chester County where it's only wide enough for one vehicle at a time. So you have either a stop sign or a yield sign, and you have to you wait for the oncoming traffic to clear, and then it's your turn to clear. So it would be something like that.
Right, but we looked into the useful life of that bridge. It can't last forever.
It can't last forever. We've not looked into the useful life of that bridge. But I can tell you that I've been involved in other projects that have looked at have approached Amtrak, because Amtrak owns that line, and Amtrak has no plans to change that bridge. So I know what you're getting at, and it was a question that came up with the Planning Commission as well. The goal of the study is to do something in the near term, right? We want to try and do something in the next couple of years, but I do think a sort of a visionary recommendation coming out of anything that we might do should also document interest from the township that when the time is right to replace that bridge, we should look to really incorporate properly a wider space under the bridge so that we can accommodate traffic and pedestrians.
So I would think if we do if it's 10 years away from its useful life or 50 years away from its useful life, that would make a difference in decision making.
I can tell you that we've tried to get that information. I've tried to get that information on another project. Amtrak keeps that information close to the vest. They're not. It's difficult to get that information.
Okay, one way from Lakeside. I think I heard what you said. Lakeside is one way towards Route 30.
And under one scenario,
That
right?
definitely needs signaling.
It will, and that's what we'll be looking
But
at.
you don't show it here. So
We haven't studied it yet, right? So that's right now. We're just asking for your kind of concurrence that these are the alternatives.
then why do you throw out making the pedestrian only zone?
We didn't throw it out. The Planning Commission didn't support that concept. They thought it was maybe a little bit awkward and confusing. There was also some concern with some of the options that we had identified that it may encourage people, if you still keep two-way flow on either side of that zone, there was some concern that it may invite cut-through traffic through Casey's, which already occurs to a certain extent, and that this would only increase the likelihood of that cut-through traffic.
We can put a barrier or something that address that if that's a, if, I don't know what you guys think. I get the idea.
If you can do that, you don't need, all you gotta do, like we did for the country, we put barricades out. So
Right.
So the reality is you don't need to re-engineer it to turn it into a interim pedestrian only zone. You use it as a pedestrian only zone for the event. It's similar to how Westchester does downtown, Wayne does downtown.
Why can't it be one way in one direction? Why is it up two way? Is there any reason that it has to be two way?
There's a pretty significant flow of traffic in both directions that currently use that, and so obviously, if we go one way, we got to decide which way we choose, and then that's going to push traffic. The obvious push would be further to the west at Bridge Street and Old Lancaster Road and Route 30, which we know is already a very challenged intersection. So there was some concern by the planning commission on diverting more traffic to that intersection.
Is there a benefit to just making Lakeside fully pedestrianized? Because like the traffic flows are so low for that portion. Like the rest is used as kind of a cut through. I understand you're trying to get, across traverse the railroad tracks. But Lakeside, I mean, it's hardly anyone really tries to do that.
Right.
Is there a benefit to, studying just making that fully pedestrianized, or not even literally realistic?
Yeah, I think the difference is
I walk there.
it doesn't have the same sort of small town. It doesn't have that sort of town Main Street feel that Old Lancaster Road has, where the businesses front and face into the road, where it's really the back end. So I don't know that you're getting that same commercial activity. It is certainly an idea. The planning commission,
At least one business of Great Island would separate them from.
I'm sorry.
One business would be Island, separate that from commercial traffic. Like it's only got an entrance on Lakeside. I like the idea, but
There is one business closer to Route 30.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. That would be isolated.
right with the other one on the other end. All those businesses have parking elsewhere.
You did one part Lakeside, the opposite part Lakeside, and also part of that light.
Yes. Yeah, whatever, I mean, again, that is the next step in this process, so we'll look at the impacts, the diversions of traffic, what improvements are needed, and whatever we need to do at Lakeside would involve for that leg on the south side as well.
Questions before?
At minimum, making it a one-way under the bridge makes sense with the sidewalk, because like I said, I've walked from there. I have a Volvo, I've dropped it off and then tried to walk back home. It's 20 minutes. And that is a perilous spot if there's a car coming.
I saw a few people doing it this evening. It's surprising. You don't get many people trying to do that. And again, the goal of the planning commission's goal was maintain, we go to one lane on Lakeside, North Lancaster. And at the end of the day, maybe it doesn't work, right? But we can test it. It would allow for some management distribution of traffic, but then also really provide a dedicated pedestrian facility. Like Lakeside has not.
Yeah.
Right. So it would provide room for some kind of a sidewalk or something for Lakeside Avenue. So there's a real opportunity there, if it works.
Yeah. And there's the same kind of one-way bridge at I think it's Conestoga and the other cross, maybe third.
Yeah.
Right behind the Whole Foods. So
Yes.
traffic piles up a little bit, but it's something too crazy. So I think pretty.
Right, or dangerous for the.
It's a sidewalk, it's less dangerous than it'd be no sidewalk.
Yes, and that's.
That's the whole reason for, in this case, would be to narrow the road, provide a sidewalk, whereas today you've got pedestrians trying to walk within the road,
And they're bending sideways.
Yes, it's difficult.
Good.
Okay, so, okay, the minutes just reflect consensus to proceed with the recommendation of the planning commission. Does that work for you?
I think that's fine. I think you should hear public comment if there is any. Looks like there's at least one on the line.
You ready for right now?
Yep.
Hey, Mike, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me? Great. It was hard to hear everything, so excuse me if I'm misspeaking, but if there is any outlook of this that would change Old Lancaster Road or the bridge itself, or the underpass, I should say, to a one-way street, I'd ask that the planning commission or whoever's investigating that, please reach out to the fire company. That is a significant route of travel in both directions for emergency vehicles, especially because most of the other underpasses that go under the train tracks have significant height restrictions. So that is a pretty important route for us. So I just make sure that before you finalize any of that, please reach out if that's one of the directions that the recommendations goes towards.
That bridge seems pretty short. I've never seen them that hurt. And we put sidewalks on our side so the rest of the people are walking on the low side.
That, we don't know yet. Yeah, we need that'll be a later step. First, we need to see if it even works from the traffic management standpoint.
Is there any other public comment?
Yeah, I'm back here. Will there be lighting under the bridge? Would that be a consideration?
That will be, yeah, the
Would
planning,
that be?
yes, the planning commission also mentioned lighting as well as a need. So yes, if we are able to accommodate a pedestrian path under the bridge, lighting would be a part of that.
And part of the study, you engage the neighbors. That area, right? Sorry, engage the neighbors in that area. Part of the study.
Not specifically, just through the public process that the planning commission or supervisors.
We should do something to let them, they should know that we're doing this specifically, the people in that area. I don't know if this in their mailboxes or whatever, but.
Once the study's completed, I guess.
Colin, you can send them a letter, right?
Sure, absolutely.
We'll send them a letter.
Motion to, but we move forward evaluating the three options recommended by the planning commission. Do I have a second? Second. So, this can several in favor. Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to authorization approval of ratification, solicitor letter dated July 7, 2026 to council for Berlin owner. That's LLC is the 533 regarding conditions of development of penalties for non-compliance.
And just for the board's background, you have use that letter. Essentially, it resolves some of the questions on how to move forward quickly on the currently vacated Anvil site, which has some deteriorating buildings on, and trying to create a structure where the part of the project, which is previously approved by the township, gets finished within 24 months. So what the letter lays out and the developers agreed to is you've got a demolition deadline by August 31. And then the plan will be reported at the end of August. Within 9 months, they have to commence site improvements and construction. We have about $2.8 million secured now, financially secured, to make sure those improvements happen. And then within 24 months of plan reporting at the end of August, not only do the public improvements have to be in, but essentially this apartment building has to see compensation. So if they do not meet those benchmarks, they're under the letter and the developers agreed to it. There's a $500 per day fine, which we can impose in against. So that would be the action item to approve and ratify that letter of trust.
Is there any board comment?
I got a couple of comments about it. I originally, when this came before us, I was on the board, I did not approve it. I have a couple of considerations. One is the claim was made that we had to approve it because they would have this in lieu of. And my stance is we don't have to approve it, in lieu of, it's purely a force decision. They could have done 9 units. Where there would be no in lieu of, they could build it as is, if they done 4 units. Two is there's benzene, which is they had chemical, who I worked with in college. I had to wear a white suit and negative pressure. I was, it wasn't considered a potential carcinogen. It was, if you inhale it, you're gonna get cancer, kind of thing. So I do not approve, I don't approve the idea that we're gonna have benzene in our community from here on out. I think we should clean it up. I know there was a third one, I can't think of it. I can't see it agreeing to this. I understand it's been, the site is an eyesore right now. It will be great to have something new built there and unoperational, that's fantastic. I just don't think this is the right thing for it. Oh, I know I'm sorry, I know the last one was, it's the people who live there are going to be relatively wealthy. It's an inexpensive place to live. I would love to have not low income housing, just income housing that average people live in. I don't know how you do that or if you can do that, but that's not going to be in this. And that's unfortunate. There are many people who work in this township who can't afford to live in the township. For this. I think it's the wrong direction. That's it. Sorry.
Any other board comments? So take a motion to approve the agreements. That's noted.
Yes, the motion and the second amended.
Second.
I would say.
Public comment.
You're talking about the old handle properties?
Yes.
That's real quick. Jay Jansen again, 2021 grant, sorry. What sort of brownfield reclamation programs have y'all looked at? I know there's some environmental engineering disciplines involved at various levels of both the township and some of the advisory committees.
I jump in. When this first came up, I looked into it, the DEP, and unfortunately the DEP is constrained by something called Act 2, which the legislature passed, which allows, under the right conditions, remediation, not removal. And because the developer was willing to do the remediation, the DEP would, their hands were tied.
Do you remember what remediation specifically?
Capping with concrete.
They scrape and cap? Is that what it is?
No, there's no scraping. It's going to be capped with a layer. The same, and again, why I'm so opposed to it is it's the exact same mechanism that was used in the rail yard. That's broken twice.
Right.
And I think right now it's broken. And
It's just a Band-Aid on the problem. It's not,
that's my take.
not fixing the root cause of it.
Correct.
At full disclosure, I've done brownfield reclamation projects and they are big gigs and they're very involved, but
Yes.
Through the right partnership we use the federal EPA, but also the state DEP, this was in New York State, and formed a very good public-private partnership that jointly got the work done the right way.
But yeah, it's not cheap. It's not easy. It's not cheap, but it's worth doing.
So any other public comment? Okay. So all in favor of approving the letter that was put forth, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Let's have it. Moving on to the Township Administration Police Building Schematics Cost Estimate.
So I'll set it up for you. Later on, we have the finance side of this next item. Right now, we've got Martin and Jeff from Kimmel. And they'll give you the most updated version of the site plan, most updated cost estimate. Answer any question you have. From my perspective, it's aligned to the instructions you gave us. So one change for the Newtown Road access that Martin will tell you about. But other than that, it's the implementation of the ideas that you expressed to us.
Great. Hi, Martin Kimmel here again with Jeff, Don.
Don said, just as a general update, we have since last I was before you followed your instructions and we have presented to the Historic Commission and to the Parks Commission, and we're getting teed up to go to Planning Commission in the future. I think by most accounts, the Historic Commission in particular was delighted by this solution, and I come to understand that that's rare. Made me feel pretty good about it. So, anyway, not that that's important, but it was good, good thing to go home after that meeting. At any rate, so as we continue on, in addition to that, we've had some great staff input and we've tweaked the floor plans into what I think is a final plan. Nothing significant as it would relate to your input, but it was a great back and forth, and we got, I think Don and John did a good job of gathering that, and Jeff and I too tried to do a great job of integrating it on both the police level and the upper floor level. So the site plan as it more or less sits today is on the screen before you. If you go to the next slide, Colleen, thank you. You'll see what we saw last, and as Don points out, if you see off to the left side of the lower parking lot, the dashed line down to Newtown Road. As we've gotten into the development of the engineered drawings, it's a bit of a bigger lift to get down there than what we would have guessed, and we'd also gotten feedback about not disturbing the vegetative screen. I mean, it's a very mature vegetation all along Newtown Road there. In talking with the police, it was not something that was a high priority for them to have. It was really something that we suggested. And so we got to the point where at this point now we don't think it's the juice is worth the squeeze, if you will. Like it would be better not to impact that, to keep just the single access off of Beaumont, knowing that we could at any time easily add a connector over to the Hilltop House site to give a second way out if at some point you guys really felt differently about the need to have more than one way to get out of that. Nothing that we are proposing now would prevent us from adding a future access. Again, if you decided that we really want to get to Newtown Road. So the site plan that's on the next slide shows a more finalized version of the layout. And it doesn't look like a whole lot different. Some things I will note in the upper right, you'll see it. So walk up. So we took a hard look at preserving this is where the pavilion is, existing playground is right here. Wanted to preserve all that intact, so we're recommending a small retaining wall along that edge to be able to not impact anything over there. The previous plan showed this is a more specific layout of a small retaining wall here that will protect the spring house as it exists today. So that was based on various inputs we've gotten throughout. So really minor kind of tweaks to that site plan. We think it works. We think it works really well. So I could be glad to answer any questions you have on that, those subtle changes.
Mike, so you think you're okay with still that Beaumont, even with the school traffic?
I think we'll be okay. It's getting closer to Newtown Road. So we've talked about it. I think it'll be fun.
The officers are gonna be getting into the traffic, because like right now, it's sort of the edge between the two traffic going this way. Now it's gonna be right in the middle of traffic. You don't think that'll be worse?
No.
I mean, actually, you'll be west of where it doubles up. So you'll only be dealing with traffic on the one end, whereas when they exit now, they're fishtailing through two directions of traffic.
And the tail end, but
And they're trained to do that. They'll get out safe, right? They'll get out safe and they're trained to.
We
We need to get
figure
out.
out a way if you'd like.
Yeah. If they gotta go, they'll go. So they won't,
That's my
they'll
experience.
figure out how to get there and they'll get there safely.
The fire and EMS and the police, I found that they need to get somewhere they.
They'll get there and they'll get there safely.
even during like school dismissal, it's
Very chaotic there, but.
If we needed to get out for an emergency, we've had no issues with that, from my experience.
There was one day I was here when it was mayhem trying to get out. I don't know. I don't think you were trying to get to an emergency, but one officer was trying to get out and just couldn't.
but that's really the concern, is that there's mayhem, there's a lot of confusion, and like someone gets hit or something like that. And if it's just as simple as we have to pull a tree and connect it, like I would just do that, and then it's not even an issue. But that's fine. We can always reconsider.
Yeah, it's a bit more involved in that, because if you do that formally, you gotta go to PennDOT. There's no guarantee that we get that. If they want us to align with the drive, one of the two driveways, it becomes exhaustive because you don't really want it there. So that's why I said the juice and the squeeze kind of thing all went into
It
that.
disturbed a lot of steep slopes in the area that generally you want to minimize disturbing steep slopes.
The difference being Beaumont's a township road and Newtown is a state road, so you would need a highway occupancy permit and PennDOT approval on
Understood.
Newtown.
Is there any way we could, up at the top on Beaumont Road, create like a quote unquote hidden road that only the police could use if they needed to get out?
I think that's what the idea would be in the future. If you really found that you needed it, you would create it, it would be a limited access, not fully improved driveway. That you could create. And again, the design of that and even the angle of the retaining wall preserves the ability to go down there.
The problem with Beaumont Road is it's a steep slope right there. Beaumont right into the park goes up though.
Yep.
Yeah.
And some of this involved the natural break point because every idea triggered a change to something else. And, there were a couple of hundred thousand for the access, a couple of 100,000 to move the playground equipment, things like that. So it became the compromise, not a compromise, it became the most aligned to the initial vision that we heard you represent.
That's fine. I didn't mean to dwell. It's just, we could always reconsider later.
Right, I just don't want to do something now that we'll regret later,
No, I appreciate it.
You could create a rule that says the officers all have to be out by 2. And you're only allowed back in after 4.
No crime after
Just gonna tell the bank robbers.
Yeah, no, they'd be out patrolling.
Okay. And this does show the path that you requested on the Newtown Road sign, but that would be inside of the vegetation, the mature, running north to south, that light line. And we did just schematically show the more or less planned improvements of the intersection and pedestrian sidewalk along Beaumont Road, which are not part of this project, but obviously need to be coordinated closely together.
And that's one of the items that's the next item has you borrowing money to build that sidewalk.
Right.
And get a grant for it eventually.
Right, and the snow pillars preserve.
Yes.
Kids will still be able to.
And the path to it, yes.
I'd like to get rid of that walkway across because that interferes with sliding down the hill.
That's between you and the parks.
Different issue. I know if in 3 days we get snow, it's not worth.
All right, with that, we could pivot to the cost. So as we talked about before, early on, we did internal estimating. We've had a couple of updates, going way back into 2025 on that. As part of our due diligence, and I always remind people in the world of public construction, where you go out to multiple prime bidders at the very last minute, and you really never know what something's going to cost until the market speaks to it. We have abundance of caution, and so we've updated our estimates every time. We have a new update, and we went out to two third-party estimators beyond us at no additional cost to the township to get them to look at it too. So what I think in your packet is already in there shows. Oh, sorry, we're going to zoom in. I think we've talked through this one. Shows the latest update. So if you look at the two yellow lines at the bottom right, the 12995 was our last internal estimate, and then the contractor estimate you can see on the right is 13826. There's some specifically good reasons for why that is up, not just a different look at it. So this captures the additional square footage that was added, about 1,500 square feet, and if you 1,500 square feet and $450 a square foot, that you get immediately to a plus $600,000 number. We factored in some additional site approaches, and then I will confess I reported at least 2 meetings that we included a budget for the sustainability of features of the building, which we had always done, and somehow on the last spreadsheet that number was not in the number, and we were just looking for it. I'm like, my God. So I apologize. Last time I came here, I talked about it. I talked as though it was on the screen. We later found out it wasn't. It now is. And so we captured, the main factors there: the geothermal system, vegetative roof, the mass timber construction, and solar array. So apologies for that. But you'll see those are specifically line item there as well. So you can see that's up just under $1 million. We always recommend, and we've already talked with Don, is, you're best to go in with the most conservative and with contingency. And then, when the bids speak, hopefully, we're on the low side of the high. We also will build into the bid set a number of what we call bid day levers, which are alternates. So scope that is optional, sort of, or different, like, okay, the base scope of a roof, a next down roof, various components we have that allow you to, like, either, hey, the bids came in really low, pop a couple things in, the bids came in on the high side, drop a few things that weren't absolutely essential. Before we go to bed, we will identify those with staff, and obviously with your approval, they will go into the bid set as something that you're willing to have or not have. It won't be something we just kind of slip it down.
But what is the mass timber and the geothermal show is included in the contractor?
So if you look in the, I'm gonna get up and make it easier on myself here. If you go furniture, fixtures, and equipment costs, and then if you look down here, mass timber, solar panels, geothermal, it's in that center section, tracked across, and we had that separate in ours. It is rolled up into the contractor's estimate, with the exception of the solar panels. They basically included that up above, which is also why there's a bigger delta here than there is down here. Does that make sense?
How much did we pay for the fire station? What did that work out?
I don't remember.
I don't have that off the top of my head, sorry.
I just don't know, like, I mean, I'm thinking for a house, $300 a square foot. So this is double.
Well, so a lot of the new houses you see going up around here are probably plus $1,000.
$1,000 a square
Yeah.
foot.
Well, other houses are 300, and you
So we
might
should be
find,
building a
you might find a toll house somewhere down, in the town square in one of those communities that maybe they build them in the 200s, but not so much.
And just note that that's a sizable increase. No one's pretending otherwise. As this has been brought to you from most general to most particular, there have been safety factors along the way that as it becomes more specific, the safety factors come out. So the debt service for that's in the subsequent agenda item is probably only like $5,000 or $6,000 more of it per year than one of the previous estimates, and probably 10 to 15,000 more than one of the other estimates. So you had various estimates at various times, and sort of the uncertainty band narrowed. So it's not appreciably changing your debt service from what has been presented to you in the past and went through your planning process with the ECAT.
And how much do you think 5% for construction contingencies, since that's is that a reasonable?
I don't see it as a high risk project, but there's not a lot that could there's no first time evolution type stuff that's in here. So I'm fine with decreasing it, 10% for like a private type of thing, 5% for something like this. It seems reasonable. The only one that gives me a little bit of pause is only 2% for time escalation contingency, which is a schedule question. What do you guys think in terms of timeline for construction?
That is still continues to be based on going to bid either right before the end of the year or early the new year. If you were to push that,
Updating
that would
costs
go up.
between now and then.
Yes, that was 4%.
Will we be ready to go to bid in January, let's say?
Yeah, we are on schedule, notwithstanding getting our NPDES permit, which could be the thing that would move the needle one way or the other. To be ready to go out to bid by December 1st with everything else. And then obviously you can gauge that into the new year. If we go into January, in January, it's got their back on, you have to.
So I don't know that we need any formal action tonight. This is more of the controlled litigation piece. This is, in our opinion, aligned to the instructions that we've heard from you for the months that we've been doing this. The action item tonight is the next thing. John, anything to add? Martin, Jeff?
Really disappointed we're not getting that road down. That road. I'm also not willing to spend $200,000 to get it.
As long as, and again, as long as like it's. and
Yes.
Police are saying we can do this, we're good with this. Trust you.
And keeping in mind that your action item is item E, which is. Something possible. I think you can take any public comment that could also relate to anything about the township.
Okay.
In the next item.
And then that's your next item. Okay. Okay, so the next item is the parameters ordinance bond issue.
Okay, I'll set it up. I'll just give you the participants. Ed represents Stifle. So sort of served as the quarterback of it. He's with Brooke with Stifle also. You've got bond counsel Sylvia Shin, and she's online. Yeah. So Sylvia Shin is bond counsel, she's online. Tom Beckett also is online. He's a financial advisor that would be involved also at the sale. So same team you've always used. Andy's on the team, Kristen's on the team, Stifle, the bond counsel, aligned with, probably Ed's been before you at least once. Yeah, and then a couple times in EMA too. Yeah, so nothing is changing. It's getting more particular, more focused, but it is fully aligned to what they told you at several meetings and you told them at several meetings. Tonight is the action point to make that happen. So Ed, I'll pass it off.
Thank you very much. It's fairly intimidating to find council. Looking over me on the screen. Don't tell Sue. That's meaningful. So yes, before you is the parameters ordinance. And the parameters ordinance is the ordinance will take all public action that you'll need to take to incur the debt for the project. And we define the project in 3 different terms here. One is smaller funding of the 2024 debt, which was the firehouse piece. And we're funding that for savings. We won't know exactly how big the savings is until we sell the bonds and get final interest rates. But if we have a good belief that there'll be savings, it'll also pull that note into this. So administratively, there'll only be one payment instead of we're going to pay the back all.
Ed, what was the interest rate on the previous bond?
It was 4.6 something. I want to say 4.67.
Ballpark, what do we expect now? The updated ones?
Oh, in the short time, it's going to be. So part of this goes out longer and part of it's shorter. But I think the comparison is like inside 3. It was about 100 basis point different.
3.5, something like that.
Yeah.
It'll fluctuate, but that's great.
It's saves. It's only $3 million left outstanding on that loan. But administratively, it helps. It saves any dollar it saves.
1% of 3 million is $30,000 a year. So
Right. So that's what we're trying to do. The other part of the project obviously is the township building. We update for Don probably every 2 weeks when he gets updates from the architect as to where we are. So we're going to size the building we're going to size the bond issue to provide you exactly the amount of funds that you need for the estimates that you've heard. And we continue to update that. I think in your packet last Friday, we updated it last Thursday with new debt service. As Don alluded to, I think when I was here in June, we ultimately said that debt service was going to be $1,030,000 on the township side. And we still think it's about the same. It might be $1,032,000, but it's very, very close. There has been no incremental change to the finance piece that I presented to you in April and in June that we updated in July. So interest rates have been fairly stable in the municipal space. So we're about at the same level. Same thing with the sewer. Donna and the team updated what was needed in the sewer piece. So we're going to provide exactly the amount of proceeds that you need to do the sewer project at Valley Forge and the other projects listed. So that's kind of in the parameters resolution, and it's 25 pages, but it goes through everything. But basically, that's the definition of the project that we're asking you to approve. Now, also in that, you approve that you're going to pledge your general obligating taxing power, your full faith credit taxing power to the repayment of the bonds, similar to all the other financings that you've done. It's generally the way that we do it in Pennsylvania. You'll do a couple other things. You're authorizing the filing of a borrowing base and a debt statement. Sylvia will handle all that for you. But there'll be a number of procedural issues that we're doing. Again, one of the things that we do to preserve your borrowing capacities. The sewer project goes on as debt of the township. And then it comes right back off that we certify that they've got rates and rents enough to pay their proportionate share of debt service. And we know that EMA's already increased the rates to make the payments for the new debt service. And we know they need the money, as Don said, we're about a month behind. So if we do this correctly, and I'm gonna go out of order here, we would hope that we would finalize everything. If you see positively to the resolution or to the ordinance, we would be in a position to sell the bonds on August 3rd and close on September 3rd or 4th. So you would have the proceeds. Again, when I say sell the bonds, we'll be locking in the interest rates. We'll be spending the next 2 weeks marking the bonds, talking to investors, doing all those things. Additionally, procedurally, we always ask for a municipal rating, have to sell the bonds, it gets you a lower interest rate. We had the rating meeting last week, went very well. Standard & Poor's came back to us today. They issued a AA+ rating for the township's bond issue. They've also reconfirmed on EMA's debt rating of AA as well. Since you guarantee it, they've done it all. So all outstanding bond issues now for the township or that you're obligated for all have a AA+ rating. So again, that's exactly one notch less than AAA. I would imagine that would probably be forthcoming over some period of time. The credit report is pretty instructive. It gives you kind of a roadmap. And I think they're fairly happy with new revenue streams. And I would imagine that if the revenue stream continues on the way that it has, an upgrade will probably be coming. I think it's just too new right now, but I think you get another year or two out. I think they'd have that conversation.
Would that significantly impact the interest rate on the debt then for future issuances?
In the future, yes.
So AA+ compared to AAA, is it 0.25%, 0.5%, something like that?
It's really, it depends on where we are in the interest rate cycle. You know, like in 2020, when interest rates were really, really low, there was just no delta. Like you couldn't get it any lower. Right? Interest rates are higher now, so I would say it's wider. So it is more important.
And that's the reason I'm asking is, we're talking about, a month or two until we market and then close. At least federal interest rates for municipal bonds are heading up for treasuries and stuff. So, there's probably a little bit of risk there that this could continue to go a little bit higher than we expected.
Well, I want to hit the ground running. I want to run fast for the next few weeks. We're going to have a lot of conversations, and there's going to be, again, there's a universe of very high credit quality buyers, that are known to us. I just did Willistown Township, just got a AAA upgrade, pretty much on the strength of their earned income tax and some of their high income tax residents. If I can be gentle with, there's a large percentage of the income tax paid by a small amount of people that are very, very wealthy.
You don't think names, do you?
I don't know any of those names, but it's not Don Curley.
He lives in
So it's definitely not it. So
Did we ever have a rating?
what?
Did we ever have a AAA rating? Easttown.
Not to my knowledge. The school district does. So the school district does. Radnor Township does not. Radnor Township is a AA1 Moody's. So Radnor Township's the exact same as Easttown.
Oh, we have to do better.
That's a whole different discussion.
Yes. I'm very
Again,
aware.
when I talk about the credit rating, it's always twofold, like credit rating's job is to give you they want to see the largest possible moat, that you can make payment from. So they would like you to collect as much revenue as possible and have as much reserves as possible and have as wealthy as a township as you can. But that's not your job. Your job is to run municipal government and serve the residents. And so you have different jobs. And unfortunately, some of the other townships that are AAA, to get a AAA, a lot of times you need a lot more commercial real estate, which is not the nature of this township, right? If you want a AAA like East Whiteland, you can have the Great Valley Corporate Center. Now, there's a lot of assessed valuation, there's a lot of taxes, but you get all the other things that come with that. You get the Great Valley Corporate Center, you get the traffic, you get there's employees coming in and out of Vanguard and all the other companies. And it's very nice for everyone who works around here, but by and large, it's a different. Getting a AAA is different than having mostly residential bedroom community, which is what you're trying to preserve. So that's the rating. Public action. We'll lock in interest rates on the 3rd, close the September 3rd or 4th. I think that's all I had for you. We've created a preliminary official statement. We're ready. We got the rating back. I think that's all I wanted to go through with you. I'm sure there's more detailed elements of the ordinance that maybe Sylvia might want to go through, or Tom. I don't want to monopolize all the conversation here, but that's kind of where we're at. I wanted to leave you with the impression that fiscally, all those plans that I've given you have not materially changed. We are ready to sell the bond. We do have the municipal rating. We will finalize the investor document in the next 3 to 5 days, and we will be prepared to sell the bonds on the 3rd of August. That's kind of what I wanted to summarize.
3rd of August or 3rd of September?
What?
3rd of August.
3rd of August, I'll sell the bonds. That locks in. We'll close and you'll get the funds on September 3rd. Tom, did you want to add anything? Did I miss anything?
No, Ed, you did. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
No, Ed, I don't think we have a heck of a lot to add. I'd say on the rating, Alex, it's probably no more than 10 basis points or 0.1% these days. And as Ed pointed out, it fluctuates a lot depending on market conditions. And Radnor Township's had their AA1 for over 30 years. They haven't moved a dime off of that. But that has more to do with Radnor Township and Delaware County than anything that the township is doing. But it's been smooth sailing, and as Ed said, we're locking in rates on the 3rd of August.
If you had any questions, I know the solicitor wanted to entertain any questions from the public, but anything else that you might want, I'm happy to answer anything that I missed. There were several presentations.
I have a question. I noticed that Barnes and Thornburg is still the attorney for this, and they're still a client of mine. Do I have to recuse myself at all?
Yes, I would recommend that you recuse. Okay. Well, let me say this. You've already recused on the appointment of the team.
Right.
No, you do not have to recuse on the borrowing. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. Right.
So the board comment or questions. Okay, so the motions to approve the.
Say the motions to approve the parameters ordinance with a couple little, there's some minor edits associated with naming convention. The number is adjusted on the front page, the principal number, to 3125000 from 3020000. So just minor edits that came in. So we just want to include those minor edits. They're marginally just different than what's in your packet. If you had a question about them, still need to answer that question.
And that's not a substantial change, so it doesn't prevent your action tonight if the board wants to act. So you need a motion, a second, and then
Yeah,
public.
motion to approve the parameters ordinance as stated with the edits, as Don has stated. Do I have a second?
Second.
Public comment.
Sure, Steve Mullen, 2030 Grantham. I would just say regarding the municipal bond deal. I work for a institutional bond firm myself. My economist happens to think that interest rates will be lower this time next year. So I would just respectfully say you have to consider, none of us know what's going on in the economy, and you know, the current rates on municipal bonds are low because supply is low as well, and there's high demand. There's no reason that I can think that if we were doing this time next year, rates wouldn't be the same, or the cost of financing this particular bond issue wouldn't be the same or lower this time next year. So I just ask the board to keep that in mind. There is no immediate sense of urgency. In fact, I sell municipal bonds to institutions, and in Pennsylvania, I can't find enough bonds right now. So I'm just asking you to consider that there is not necessarily a huge sense of urgency to print this deal yet. Thank you.
Sir. Yes.
Thank you, Sean. Betsy Fadden. I'm really here to talk about the library for just 1 minute. As you know, we've been before you, and you know we're embarking on a needs assessment and a donor capacity study, to which the library, the foundation, and the Friends have spent, or will have spent $128,000 to lay the groundwork to give you data and information on why we need such a project. You know, our options came in at 10, 15, and $20 million all in costs, and we don't know exactly where that'll be, but we know the needs that we have and how those options will address them. I know this borrowing will probably preclude us from having any additional borrowing for quite some time, as your debt service now will be at a level, and I'm not sure when you'll be able to add to it. So by this vote, I really feel you're putting our library at least 3 to 5 years out in terms of any real borrowing that could help us in the community. I know you've been looking at this police building and this administration building for almost 10 years. I know the police have needs. I just hope you'll understand that a year from now, maybe 18 months, when we come to talk to you about what our donors can do and what we need you to do, that you'll be open to those conversations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other public comment?
Yes, Jay Jansen, 2021 Grantham. Forgive me if some of this is rehashing old township business, but have we looked at rehab and refurbishing whatever this building is, and the sense of urgency about the changes, given some of the police needs and some of the other, versus a rather large, in my opinion, a rather large bond offering that's gonna, as Betsy pointed out, saddle us with some pretty significant debt for a long period of time. What other options were pursued, and what allowed them to, what permitted them to be discarded by the board in favor of a new building?
There was a study that was done by HSA, the previous architect, that was, predates this board. When was it started on? 2018?
Started in 2015, went through 3 phases, evaluated all these conceivable ideas, emerged at $20 million in 2022 dollars. And then that's what triggered back to this. So every other option was evaluated. Offsite was evaluated, keeping it here was evaluated, just adding on was evaluated. And some of this is going to be Martin speaking to. It's tough, very difficult to take a barn and turn it into a police station. It might be not so hard to take a barn and turn it into an admin facility, but largely it became cost prohibitive. And then the meeting room also, that was a component of it that it drove, and that was a factor that drove the costs of staying here up such that you all selected the site across the way there.
Yeah, Jay, it was nearly 10 years of needs assessments,
Right.
finally kind of coalescing into, the project as it sits now, which is significantly cheaper, like Don said, than the previous iteration, which was kind of rehabbing this building, like move everything into half, demolish it, construct, move everything into that, demolish it, construct, and then turn. It ended up being a $30 million huge project versus, what we saw up here, which is $13 million. So less than half the cost of what we had, seen before. So it's a lot more economical to do it this way. And it's been a long time coming before we've gotten to this point. So that's the necessity of it.
And what's the sense of urgency with doing it now versus continuing to look at?
The biggest driver, not the only driver, the biggest driver is the police requirements. It's just it's outlived its useful life. The space that's allocated, there's a lot of need for room. Like if you go in there and you look, there's just stuff everywhere because there's just physically not enough space. Like you go in the armory, there's just stuff everywhere. So it's high time for a larger space that's more modernized, more fit, kind of fit for purpose for that. With the other added benefits of a meeting room that can actually host comfortably the amount of people that we typically have come to these places. It was funny, last time we had this, we couldn't actually host all the people in the meeting room to discuss how the meeting room was inadequate. They were always spilling out. So it was, and they're still questioning the need and utility for it. So again, I understand the concern. It's a lot of money to spend 13.5 for $13.8 million. Totally understood. But there's multiple reasons why it's necessary. It's been a long time coming just to get us here.
I'll just say, I think every supervisor who's come in, myself included, have all noted just how inadequate facilities are for the law enforcement after viewing them. So it's not like came out of nowhere and we're just kind of whimsically going about this. This has been a long-standing problem for the township and the township's police. It's a problem that we needed to address. So that's why we're here.
And correct me if I misunderstood, in the last meeting, I thought there was some discussion about delaying it. And that I thought I heard from the township in general, the township administration, that delaying it would be something that they could support so that we could further evaluate the certainty of the revenue sources related to the EIT, all those tax revenues coming in. We have one data point from 1 year of collections, but giving a little more certainty to the tax revenue increases as they would come in, as the bond gentleman noted, that that certainty of tax input or tax increases, tax revenues, has a big impact on the rate that would eventually be paid on any bond that would be floated.
We can't wait. We can't wait. There are things that are making life dangerous for our officers in the building today that we just don't have and we cannot put in place. And the sooner we get those in place, the safer our officers will be. And that's the paramount importance. We can't wait.
So can I paraphrase that by saying we really need a police station? Would that be an effective paraphrase?
That was one of the options that we looked at too, was just creating a police station and then keeping this as an admin building. Kimmel evaluated that. But the reality is there are effective economies of scale of, if you're building a new building, it's not that expensive to add on to it with new administration facilities as well. You get pretty good bang for your buck doing that actually. So it's one of the reasons why we settled on that design.
We have to build a police station. We have to build a township meeting room, adding the administration. Yes.
I believe when you did that, it cost more to renovate this building and build just the police station.
Correct. 10 years of decisions and meetings to be distilled down here.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add one other cost is there's cost and delay because you spent $250,000 over that 10-year period. And you arrived at a $20 million bill. The version that emerged from your $250,000 was a $20 million building that you all agreed you didn't want to build. So we, with Martin's help and the board's direction, they got on a process that controlled that, brought the price down because you established sort of guide rails on it. You establish your priorities, which push the price down. And that's how Martin arrived at the building that satisfies the criteria that you identified at a fraction of the cost that predecessor buildings cost you.
So it would be fair to say that the predecessor estimates were kind of, in essence, hyperinflated or in excess of the need?
No,
That we
they were
have?
not hyperinflated. They were exactly what you wanted. The problem is that, so now my view, and you have all heard it, so it's, that you had a process that didn't control, it only looked at, let's build a building that has what we want. There was no sort of price control, no sensitivity to it. So in this process that you started, it culminated in this building, you established the limits on what you wanted, and that's what controlled the price.
The cost limits.
Yes, well, more than just the cost, the scope limits. So the architect did a great job last time. He provided what you wanted. It's just you realize that, hey, that's more than and more than what we think it's worth. And so you scaled the scope back, which brought the price back.
Right, yeah, that's about a 40% or so delta in the cost of a building.
Yeah.
That still meets the
Yeah,
needs of
the key is that the architect did a great job. You all gave him, or we all gave him a different scope. So the process let us constrain the scope, and that's what arrived at a building that is more suitable to your needs, because the last building was unsuitable to the board, as evidenced by the fact that the board didn't select it.
It's a lot cheaper and easier to build a building that's over there in an open field than it is to partially demolish an occupied building, reconstruct and do the same thing twice.
Yeah, you're talking to somebody who did that to a house, so I'm
Yeah.
well aware of all those implications, so. What happens to this building in the future?
Open question still, right?
Yeah, so it just stays in place, and there's a small planning level amount of money designed to evaluate public uses of this building. But no action included as part of this purposefully, so that lots of time can be used to figure out the best use of this building.
How is it zoned?
We have to use it for public purposes.
Public.
The deed on which it sits, we have to use it for public.
It'll stay as an attribute of the park. That was the direction that exactly how remains to be seen. Yeah.
Was any thought given to possibly rehabbing, repurposing, maybe a building that was already constructed, owned by another realty company for office space, et cetera? Any thoughts to that?
Yes, these have all been explored.
They have, okay.
Even recently too.
Yeah,
Looked
and
into it again.
that was
Yes.
explored even in the initial phase. And I mean, just think about that, you have a building, you have a property that you already own in Easttown. It's gonna be it was very difficult to buy another property, and then you had to do a building on top of another property, so. When you all assembled this as the best, most efficient way to achieve the outcome that you want.
Yeah, my preference would be to do it in Berlin somewhere, but that's just not feasible.
What's the new building? I can't recall the diagrams. What's the new building add in impervious? Between the new building and the parking and everything.
You remember Martin?
I don't have that number. I'll offer that we are taking advantage of the existing parking lot for the bulk of the parking. So we're not adding as much as you would expect from a new development. You have some great advantages because this site is already developed. It already has utilities. There's a lot of costs that we wouldn't incur that you might incur on a green site. We have that number. I still have it, and I don't want to give you a false number here. I would just also add the sense of urgency question on the borrowing, the construction inflation, and I'm not an economist, so somebody can throw, ball at me if you want, but the construction inflation will likely, if you wait a year, be at least 5%. So if the cost of the project go up 5%, and you save 500 or 1,000 basis points, I don't know that helps you. And in any case, construction inflation generally outpaces regular inflation, and it never sleeps.
My concern with the impervious is the stormwater management that will result in any increase in impervious covered on this on this site. And given the tremendous slopes that we're dealing with on the backside of it, I just want to make sure that all that is, this is my selfish township advisory committee hat that I'm putting on now.
Yeah, it
That
will be,
the
it will be
stormwater is-
engineered to be fully compliant with, your plan, and it will follow. So the procedurally, it'll be the same as the fire department. They were sort of an extension of you, but they came to you in your capacity as, so part of Martin's team, the engineer will develop that, and your engineer, Carol, will review it in the same manner, and it will be compliant.
Do we know what the total financing cost is estimated to be for the 17 million? Is the bond going to be for approximately 17 million, 14 million for this plus the 3 million refi? Do we know what the financing?
I think it's gonna be closer towards $22 million,
Okay,
because it has to have the sewer in it. Sewer, refunding, new building, all together,
and then 22 million par, right?
yes.
Okay, so do we know what the total cost will be to the township residents?
It's like 41 or 44 million something at the end of the schedule. It's all on there. It's listed in there.
44 million?
I think so.
And then the debt service is also on the website, so you can see the.
Yeah, that's all this.
Yeah.
There's about $1.030 million.
31, something like that,
Yeah.
for a 25-year loan.
44. Yeah, 44 million.
So just to be clear in the public square here, 44 million, we have about 4,000 residences in East Town, is that?
3,500 residences, we have 10,000 residents.
Okay, 3,500 residences.
That's the number I've always used. I think I knocked on the 3 door once.
So each residence can assume it's going to cost them $12,571 for these projects.
Over 25 years, yes.
Right. Well, plus all the additional proposed projects that come along over time. This is just an addition, 12,500 per residence. Okay. I just say that because I think it's important to break those numbers down into how they affect each resident in the community on a real life basis. That's all.
Right, it used to be that our average real estate tax was $1,200 a month, I think, or $1,400 a month. And whenever we spend money on anything, I always multiply the number of resident households, 1,200 divided, to figure out. So I agree with you, that's the way you look at it. Now, this is money, to be fair, this is money we're already taking in. We're just allocating it to this purpose. It's not like we're taking in additional money or anything. It's the existing EIT and real estate tax cover this.
Right, but it would also prohibit us from someday running a deficit where we could actually cut taxes for residents, the tax rate for residents in the community.
That's a choice the board can make. We're not going up to 100% of our borrowing capability. We still have. But it's up to the board to decide what to do with that.
Right.
And the board you've reduced real estate tax the last 2 years.
Yep, 10% a year.
Yes, and it would be a choice for you to do it or not do it again. You're pushing up the only thing that's running, the only element that's out there that, well, our fire mass is a big one. I won't say it's the only one, but when you pass the EIT, 2 of the items that I heard you say were fire, EMS, and police. So they would presumably consume a sizable amount of that.
It's a legislative decision every year.
Yeah, every year.
Thank you.
Not to belabor anything, but I would only add that, the township doesn't have any debt that's any older than 2019. Like, we refund these bonds as soon as they're refundable. We're very, very efficient. The interest costs that we're going to sell these bonds at are going to be the highest cost interest rate you're going to see. We've refunded all the EMA debt and saved over $3 million. I remember doing that. It was the 2013, the 2011, and the 2014. You saved $2.5 million in interest costs when we refunded the EMA debt. When these bonds are callable, and they'll be callable in 8 years, you'll be most likely refunding these bonds for interest cost savings. Just because it won't be a 25-year bond issue anymore, it'll be a 17-year bond. And when you compare it, the interest cost is gonna be. It's probable that you'll be refunding these bonds at the 8-year call anniversary of these bonds and saving a great amount of money.
Right, the 2012, 2019, and 2020 bonds come to matures.
Right.
So
I guess that's the other thing. You have, right now, the only outstanding debt that this board has is like 2 years left on the
Yeah.
2012s. You're virtually gonna be out of debt. You're only guaranteed the EMA debt. And they have rates and rents and charges to pay for their debt. You're just the cosigner. So ostensibly, you've been very conservatively managed. There's very few townships this size with these services that wouldn't have outstanding general obligation debt for something campus related.
Yeah, so ours would, except for the fire building, which is paid by the fire fund. The township's debt will expire in 4 years absent. And the debt service on that is $340,000 a year for 4 more years. Which you would characterize as a small amount of debt relative to what you see in most municipalities.
Very much so. Very much so.
And then we are, hey, we're just trying to do the right thing by what you guys want, but we are structuring that so that it trails off. So that every few years you can have decisions like this. What are the things that we want to have for the residents that require debt? And then the idea would be you can maintain level debt service. Previously, every time you wanted to do something, you had to do that in a vacuum with the incursion of the new debt.
Because we're one school district at Conestoga, have we ever looked at or talked with Tridithan about a merge of the two townships into one larger township?
20 years.
Be
Yeah.
the same school district?
we're going through the process of merging the fire companies, and that's taken at least 6 years. So it's not gonna, it could happen. There may be some pushback, there may be some agreement, but it's not gonna happen tomorrow.
I think it's unlikely. I don't even know if legally it can happen. It's been done in Pennsylvania. The township can merge into one. I don't even know if it's been.
There have been annexations. I would say it's been quite rare in the modern era.
Yeah. It'd be like Pennsylvania and Jersey making New Jersey, Pennsylvania, it's just
New Pennsylvania.
The spots where it's happened. It's been less
make
than
our taxes go,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
We could annex.
Yeah, we know there's a couple in the western part of the state
Very small.
where you have a very small borough that's basically less than 100, yeah. All the business left, the steel mill left, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, I think we did it. I believe most people don't know they live in Easttown. They think they live in Tredegar, Easttown. I think as soon as we started moving down that path, we would hear, "Oh, I've lived in Easttown my whole life. You can't do this to me." All that. We never know. But we are merging the fire departments. That's a step. There's other things we could do together.
And we're co-agitating the VFSA together, so.
Yes. Very efficient.
Technically, we have a lot more in common with Willis Township, except for a school district.
Right, yeah, I was using the school district as the kind of the central focal point and hub of the discussion. But doesn't a portion of the EIT go to the school district?
No.
No.
How old is this building?
Can you state your name?
Susan Walton, 2155 Fox Street.
Building's old, but one was renovated in 98.
1996.
98, yeah, we moved in 99.
It's probably close to the beginning, it's late 1800s. Late 1800s.
The bar. It was originally a bar.
It really was a
And
staple.
where can the general public go to better understand the needs of the police department? Because it seems like this is mostly being driven by their needs for expansion. And what has happened over the last 2 decades? 2.5 decades?
So
Where do we go?
Is
for
that
that?
central, there's a document that's on the website, that's the one that I'm trying to identify. So, the website for this agenda item has the police staffing report. So it provides an overview of the shortcomings of the building by an independent, an outside entity. And then I suppose the police would make themselves available to anybody who had questions about the inadequacies of the building. Mike, can you
Can anybody
summarize?
summarize just generally like what's happened? Like,
Well, I mean, the
locker rooms are
the locker rooms are in a bathroom.
I'd be happy to speak.
Sure.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hannah. I'm one of the patrol officers here at East Town Police Department. This is Officer Ward. He's also here today to speak as well. We figured this was a question, so we thought it would be best that we speak on behalf of the officers that work here, working in this building every day for 12-hour shifts. So I want to thank you guys for having us. I want to thank you for your attention to this matter and the due diligence that you're doing on it to try to get us an updated building that we do need. I apologize. I'm like getting over being sick, so if my voice goes, I'm sorry. I understand whether a township considers an investment this size. Residents have fair questions. Is it really necessary? Is it the best use of our tax-paying dollars? Those are very important questions to ask, and I'd be happy to give you perspective from the officers who work in this building every day. Our current police station has served Easttown for many years, but it was built with a different era of policing. Today, it simply no longer meets the operational and safety needs of a modern police department. Our detectives have spent the last 8 years working out of a trailer that was intended to be a temporary solution for 1 year. It leaks water during rain and snow. Their equipment has nowhere to be stored and is left on the floor, and there's nowhere else to put it because they don't have lockers. Inside the police department itself, which is the building we're in now, we have no interview room where detectives can privately speak with victims, witnesses, or suspects. We have no appropriate place to keep juveniles as they cannot be put in a holding cell. We lack adequate evidence storage, and water leaks from the ceiling in the area where our evidence technician works. Our traffic safety office is essentially a closet that was converted to an office. There's no radio reception in there, which has resulted in missed calls and missed accident reports for him. For our sergeants, there's 4 of them. They share an office that is not big enough for 4 people. It also does not have radio connection in the office. Outside of the building, the problems continue. We have no secure sally port for safety of bringing prisoners into the building. We have no secure area to store vehicles being held for search warrants. Our officers' personal vehicles are parked in an unsecured parking lot that is open to the public. We've had civilians walk behind the station. They've walked near our police cars and they've walked near our personal cars. A few years ago, children were found playing underneath parked vehicles from the park over here that were at the camp that they do every summer. This isn't just inconvenient. It is a clear safety concern when it comes down to children playing under a vehicle in an unsecured lot. We don't have enough parking for our police vehicles, forcing us to park them in the grass and in front of the township building. A civilian at one point was able to enter the police station through our back door after the locking mechanism had failed. These are issues that we have worked around for years, but they are not standard, and this community does expect more from its police department. Despite all of these challenges, our officers continue to show up every day. We answer calls because we are invested in serving the community and all of you that are here tonight. The reality of the situation is that the building directly impacts how safely and effectively we can do our jobs. This isn't about giving officers a nicer workplace. It's about protecting evidence, providing privacy and dignity to victims during some of the worst moments of their lives. And it's about safely housing prisoners, properly accommodating juveniles, securing police equipment and vehicles, and ensuring that officers have the space and resources that they need to respond when the community calls us. Easttown is a community that prides itself in excellence. We have excellent schools, excellent parks, and excellent municipal services. Our residents deserve a police facility that reflects the same standards and allows our police department to operate safely, securely, and professionally for the next generation. A new police station is not simply an investment in a building, it's an investment in the public safety and the future of our township. So on behalf of the members of the Police Association, I want to thank the board again for its support, and we respectfully request that the residents support the long overdue investment in the building.
And to add, you also lack a training facility.
That is correct. We do not have a facility for any training, so all of our defensive tactics training is done on the floor in the mansion next door.
Why haven't some of those items been directed? I mean, there's
There's
some
not enough-
serious items on the list that
Yeah.
seem like security issues that maybe over the last, I don't know, 2 decades could have been addressed and fixed, and they're.
I don't think it says, I mean, I'm not the board, so I'm gonna let you guys speak on that, yeah.
This makes it, the Sally Port. They had one when they built it, there's just no room for it.
I'm sorry.
The Sally Port, they had one when they built it, it's so you can get a prisoner out of the car into the station safely, so the officers don't get hurt. There wasn't enough room to build it, they built it, but it didn't work, so it's basically they took it down. Now our officers, and I did in the police station when you were trying to get off of it and get drunk, prisoners in, and it is not pretty. And they do, when you dial 911, they come up and show up and do what they can. They're putting their lives on the line. They do that. That's seriously, they are. And they deserve that.
Yeah, I mean, like some of the other items though, like, the Paul's not coming, being able to come in, there's kinds of things like.
I did not know that. We can
think-
easily fix that.
I mean. Easy fix.
I wouldn't necessarily say easy, I don't want to overstep here.
I'll jump in here since I did it for 15 years. Your name, please? Yeah. For the chief of police. We've looked at all these issues. It's been 15 years when I became chief, I tried to get the feature built. It's been ongoing. The issues have been consistent for as long as we've been here. It was too small from the day we moved in. I was here the day we moved in, it was too small then. The board has all looked at this, they've been through, they understand the needs. And I think, everybody's doing their best now to get something done that's needed to be done. So problem is, it just kept getting kicked forward, because nobody wanted to take the time to spend the money to do the thing that's. So that's kind of where we're at now, and it's just time. I mean, it's big short.
Dave, locker rooms, some issues with locker rooms, right?
Locker rooms are too small, I mean.
And not adequate for females, arguably,
Yeah.
like if it was a different era.
Well, there's a problem.
Are there any issue?
Most of the rooms that we have are also storage rooms. That's the women's locker room, the men's locker room, our armory, got to squeeze in, get things done. Our evidence room should be evidence. And it also serves just as much as a storage room as it does evidence room. So every room is pretty stacked with a lot of stuff in there.
And you interview civilians with sensitive material. They come to the police station and you have to interview them either in this room or in the hallway.
And
You safely do it.
we've interviewed people, we try to interview them in here for just privacy, but there's been times where we've had people in the hallway interviewing them about sensitive information, but yet people will continue to come in and go up to the window and there's no privacy.
And that's unusual for a police department to not have the capability to interview citizens about sensitive information.
And some of this was pushed by unfunded mandates from the state. We used to have a little tiny area for doing fingerprints. Now we take the whole room for fingerprints because of the new system that they required. There's just so many of these unfunded mandates they put. Detectives. We used to have maybe one or no detectives, but because of the number of reporting requirements and things, we have 2.5 detectives now. The state requires us to do a lot of things.
So how much of the new building is dedicated to the police department versus
60%.
admin?
I think it's, a little more than 60. Yeah.
And more than that cost, the driving force of the building is the police work, the police work in the township room would be the driving force, the
Administrative.
sort of like you build an office and you had a third floor and you put somebody on the third floor, that's not where the cost is.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that also plans for the future. So that we don't look 5 years down the road and, oh, why didn't we do this? We're out of space again. So that's taken into account with.
Yeah, let's hope it's enough.
Yeah. I feel comfortable that we're.
I mean, I love the police department. They've always come to our rescue when we've needed any small thing. And I've noticed too how tiny it is back there. But, you know, I'm just trying to get a sense of how big is this
It sounds.
building
corny, but
in relation to
it-
the township, which
really what
is
they're
just a
saying is-
residential township.
Is to keep you safe the way you want to be kept. Like, so the building isn't for the police department. The building is to keep you all safe. And the same way they need tools like vehicles and weapons and training, they need a building that can let them keep you safe.
I mean, you look at the fire department, it was kind of the same thing.
Mhm.
The building had run its course and our emergency responders could not ensure that they did the best they can, but that building was really limiting their ability to do what they could do for our residents and keeping our residents safe. This new building allows them to do things that they're unable to do. Plus, it also makes it safer for them. And I think that's what we need to do for our police. They need to have the best, most modern police facilities, and they also have to have a place where they can be safe and they can safely take care of our community. So.
I just wanted to touch on one thing that the chief said about the locker rooms. I'm Chris Ward, by the way. I've been a police officer for Easttown about 4.5 years. I've been a cop about 18 now. Hi, Chris. There's better locker rooms that compared to other like police departments around here. We have the smallest locker room. We can't keep our uniforms in the locker. We're using the shower pole to keep our other uniforms hanging up. Or actual shower in the men's locker room does not work. So if we do have to shower, we have to make sure that Officer Kinsman is not working, so we have to use.
Or they'll text me and say I need to take a shower and I can't go in my locker room, so. I mean, that in and of itself is, its own thing, but the storage of not having any room in.
Correct, and when we do have to change, like during shift change, only one of us can be in there at most because there's no room.
And it's only gonna continue getting worse. Like recently, we added some drone capability. We added a terrain vehicle for around the train tracks that we have in our township. Capabilities that we always kind of wanted to have. We had the ability to add it. We did add it. But you have to store that stuff. You need to store the equipment. You need training. You need space to do all that. And it's just it's inadequate for what we have right now, which is evidenced by the fact that there's been a temporary trailer, like the officers described, for the detectives. It's been there for almost a decade, and it's just supposed to be temporary. So
Yes, we rented
that's
them,
fine.
but now we own them. We rented them for so long that we own them.
Kind of like the sewer authority. No, I just have one additional comment. In spite of all these hurdles, I feel like this is the safest place I've ever lived, and I've lived in the middle of nowhere where nothing ever happens. So kudos to Chief and all the police for keeping us safe. I don't feel threatened in the least, so it's a very desirable community. I would just ask the Board of Supervisors to once again consider the cost of just maybe a standalone police station that addresses their current and future needs, and what that might mean to the $22 million total cost, the 12 million to the building, what that might mean to that versus and then free up the space here to allow the current township administration to function better in this existing space.
It just seems like you're putting a police building in the middle of what is recreation right now. Isn't it? I mean, kids use those fields, use that space, and to Jay's point, like making sure it fits the landscape of what, the residents currently use that for is important. It seems like a big building to me for our township, but I don't know. I can't really tell, but I'm looking at, I've been here for 24 years 25 years. And my kids have used the playground there, we've used the fields, we've used the path, everything. So when I see that and I look at it, and I'm not looking at it now, but it does seem like it's going to significantly change the landscape of what is now, park-like setting. And I'm not saying we don't need it. I agree with Jay, though, to make sure the scale of it is appropriate for our township.
I think the building is beautiful and the scale is really good. I think it's a perfect building for the police officers to be in. And to have a little room for growth is really great.
And that concern that you identified was discussed by the board, and the part of the solution is to make sure that this building becomes a park asset or a township asset in that regard. So undetermined at the moment how, but I think that's the commitment.
And Kimmel evaluated that and presented on it a couple months ago in terms of that as an option. It did save about $1 million. I forget exactly how much it saved. But then there's a retrofit cost in this area over here, which was comparable. So it was a question of, is it actually worth?
Yeah, I mean, even the parking situation, because as we drove in tonight, the existing parking lot up there was quite full. Just people using the park, walking their dogs, whatever. So when you think about moving the police department over there and having them basically use the same access to get in and out, it is something to consider. I mean, I know you have the backup plan to go out to Newtown Road, but I would think there's a bit of a safety concern there too with kids. And I don't know, Beaumont Elementary used to come over once in a while also. I don't know if they still do that for different events, but.
Any other public comment?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Anna Sikolitis. I live on Leopard Road. I'm on the historic commission that doesn't like anything. That is not true. Whoever told him that.
You didn't mean it as a compliment, believe me. Been to your meetings, it's a trend.
I was the historic commission liaison to the previous iteration of this building. And this new building is so far superior to the other one as far as fitting into the landscape. Just the whole thing was just so much better. It's so much better. And we were thrilled because it meant that we're not going to demolish this building, which is a historic asset of the township. And that was a tough one to take. So just thank you. Good job, people.
Any other public comment?
There's one online.
There's somebody online, you ready?
They have a hand up on the.
Michael, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. I don't know if this is the right time, but or if there's anyone from the ECAC group in the crowd there. I can't see anyone. But there was a kind of a memo and a presentation given at the last Board of Supervisors meeting by Jim Fox and Howard and myself. And if you need my address, it's 2058 Fox Creek Road. But there was a lookout of 5 years of projections. And we picked kind of like the top 3 scenarios over the 5-year period. So a 10% reduction in real estate tax, debt service on the $14 million bond issuance, and then scenario 3, which I think was a very conservative number, and it could be a lot higher, was the Tredyffrin Easttown Fire Department expenses going up over the 5-year period. That is like the real big unknown at this point. If it does kind of go over that $3 million that we looked at, there could be a significant deficit in 3 years from now. If all three of those scenarios happen, do you have any concerns about that, or are you considering that as you kind of move forward with this decision?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I appreciate you looking at the report and considering it. I think you're in a position where I forget the time frame, but 2010 to 2020 or so, there was like no increases in the tax during that time. I think it put the township in a kind of a hole and didn't allow for many capital projects. But now, I'm a resident as of 2020. I have a young family, I have young kids, I have a lot of expenses right now. Now I'm paying for it, and people my age are paying for it. So that generation before us kind of got off the hook with it. So we're kind of in a position, and I'll be paying for it for the next 25 years, at least till my kids graduate college. So I would just ask that, I don't mind paying for it. It stays local. It doesn't go to the state, doesn't go to the federal government. But I would ask that the building is designed in a way that it lasts 25 years, and we're not back at the table in 20 years from now asking for another $5 to $10 million to expand it or repair it, or doing significant overhauls.
Right, that's one of my observations is that this building was done in 98. And by 2008, it was inadequate. I mean, it was inadequate day one, but by 2008, it was inadequate. It barely lasted 10 years. I don't want to solve a problem for 10 years. I want to solve a problem for the next, we're borrowing money for 25 years, right?
Yeah.
It should at least be double that, right? So at a minimum of years, potentially 100 years, just like we did the fire station. We solved the problem for the fire station for the next 100 years. We should solve the problem with the township building for the next 50
Martin,
years.
that's your opinion, obviously, that this building will last decades. You're not designing us a building that in 6 to 10 years, we're going to be at this again. This building is intended to last decades into the future.
On growth side, absolutely. On quality of construction side, it's a 50, 100+ year type of build. And again, that also factors into construction costs. So yes and yes.
And then arguably from being through this with you all, through the different phases, one of the reasons why you were so quickly back to this is that you constrained to be in the building and it became a forced fit. So the new building is not a forced fit in any way. This is a bit of a forced fit, is what the police would say and what the architect would say.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment? So we already.
Board has a motion and a second.
Motion's a second, so.
The action item is to approve the parameters ordinance. We can authorize the board. We start. Yes, yep, but the financing end of it, they would like a roll call vote, so you can see who voted which way.
Okay. Start with Eric.
Aye.
Susan.
Aye.
I'm an aye.
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 Michael. 5-0.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you all for your comments. Appreciate it.
I look forward to being back in 50 years.
Thanks,
Sean.
Alex,
Thanks, Michael.
Susan.
Don't know you
Thanks.
yet, but.
Thanks, everybody.
I was.
I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Hey, Jay, that's. I can teach that.
Oh, good.
Thank you all very much. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right, departmental reports. Does the board have any comments about anything from the reports? Is there any public comment on any of the reports? Okay, moving on to regular business, a review of current zoning data centers.
So a little summary is an extension of what we talked about last time. We see that as the solution that follows the direction that you gave us. We would adjust the zone to make it an express use only allowed by conditional use. And then we pick those 4 variables as the 4 most critical. And we would use standard language that Andy's office has prepared and the county has assisted in. And then we would come back to you with a modified ordinance that would reflect those changes.
And you're planning to define what a data center is too?
Yes. And the idea behind all of this is right now in PBO, since in Pennsylvania, theoretically, technically, and in reality, you have to essentially provide for every use. Right now in PBO, there's a catch-all. And because of the impact of uses like this, what you don't want to do is have an applicant come in under the catch-all, say, I can do what I want. And so the idea would be to create legally supportable constraints. And we do think that given the build-out nature of the township, and we've talked to staff has consulted with your planners, we would say it's unlikely. But you don't want to count on an unlikely. So with your authorization, we would move forward with the draft, and that would go through the normal process through the planning commissions.
Andy, is it possible to specify it and ban it, as in it's not allowed?
No. So that's part of that, all uses. So you can constrain it. You can provide legal parameters, but if you say no, then what you do is you put yourself as a target for a validity challenge. Say you don't provide the use and therefore you're violating.
So is that
they submit a plan in an area where, like, we don't allow it anywhere, and they submit a plan in an area where we don't want it, they're gonna put it over in. I'm not, don't know, judge, because we haven't allowed for it anywhere. They can choose anywhere, but so by focusing on PPO, we're focusing the light over.
Is this part of a constraint as part of our second-class township, or is it even if you were home rule at your own jurisdiction?
Under the municipalities plan, that's really drives the process for all local uses.
So it wouldn't even matter if you're different, being home rule or anybody else, like they're still, they think the whole, understood.
So the airport would allow outside, would allow it, but there's nothing.
That's a variance, you mean?
If they could show a hardship, I think.
They don't show a hardship on it.
Right, and I think it's far more likely that a validity challenge can win the day. If you have rules and regulations to show that it could be allowed. Somebody might have to assemble property in East Town that, again, might be unlikely, but it'd be expensive. And it's your legislative choice, but I would say most municipalities are moving in the direction that it's better to have constraints that go as far as you're legally able to go. To look the other way.
I think this is great. I think this is the right way to go. There's all sorts of things that could happen, but this is our best perfection.
So is this do we need this as a consensus or?
I think usually at this point, it's just coming back as a, if you told us otherwise, right, this isn't a formal, not adopting anything tonight.
Correct. The question is really at the staff and consultant level, whether we all move forward with that.
So what would come back to you would be a draft that would reflect this in all the different sections. We have to change the definition. We didn't list all those things. That's what would come back to you. Next is the red line version of the change.
So I think you're generally comfortable. That's when you go again, planning commission, county planning commission.
So we put people on notice by talking about this publicly, like, could somebody throw a plan in tomorrow? And would we be able to hold on to this? Say no.
There's an idea called pending ordinance rule that courts have really narrowed. I would say it's unlikely that you get into a race in part because your catch-alls are by conditional use as well, so there's a hearing process versus land development by right. I would say if a data center came in today, it would be unlikely to be processed as a violated saldo, and that's where the pending one for this race comes in.
So we have consensus in the board.
As always, it's tough. You don't have the space for it, so it's kind of like.
For us. Move forward. So, next thing on the agenda is communications between advisory boards and supervisors. Eric, you want to?
Sure, so we had talked about this, possibly amending our policy like many moons ago. Between then and now, a college student reached out to me about an internship. Tried to dissuade her from doing that, but she persisted. She's actually online. Victoria Salomon. She assisted me with drafting a proposed policy change. Purpose of the policy change was to kind of, I think, modernize our liaison assignments. Everything is online. I think our attendance in person meetings isn't as important as our actually directly liaisoning with the chair or co-chair of these committees. So what I put together and what the intern helped me put together was a kind of rework of the existing policy to kind of emphasize that basically change the nature of the relationship such that each liaison is interfacing with the members of the respective ABC and getting information from them directly rather than sitting through an entire meeting, which I think is wasteful. I don't think it's very productive for supervisors. Anyone can attend the meetings if they want to. They're all available online. That's the purpose. And having to sit there and having a policy that requires ostensibly requires us to sit there. I think this kind of reframes that relationship. I think it makes it more efficient. I think it's kind of like the idea of having one-on-one conversations with people too. Wanting to stream a conversation, maybe more efficient that way. And you can also might be able to get more information when it's not in a public meeting that they may want to convey to the board that maybe they don't want to do. So that's the purpose behind this. This is not take it or leave it. So in progress, just ask the board to consider the changes. If they have any additional changes, they can do it in the draft. Also, Twitter, Sal for helping out during some break.
I talked to her about this quite a few times, and one thing I also feel sometimes that it can constrain the group that's meeting because they may not want to speak in front of a board member. Sometimes they have internal example, the library had very long discussion. It was very internal. And at one point I was kind of just like, I don't know, is there something? And I talked to Amber about it. Amber's like, oh my God, yeah, we need to get you in. So I think sometimes that can constrain the group because they may not want to speak publicly in front of a board member. Speak to the board member privately, or maybe someone doesn't want to say something, so trying to figure out something. So I think that's just another thing, but Eric, I think you kind of hit it right on.
Well, I think it also aligns it, like we're on the board, right? So we should be doing executive function type tasks, right? Attending and sitting through a meeting and going through the entire meeting is not an executive function, right? Interfacing with people on whatever board they're going to see and getting whatever ideas that they want to convey to the board, either saving them or giving them ideas to work on. I think it's probably the liaison assignment should work in my mind, but that's just my thought.
I don't see a problem with the way we do it now. I think it's good that I think it shows a lot of respect for it. Many police show up and they show up, they take, they can't have a private meeting, right? They have to do everything in public. So whether they want to or not, we or anybody can show up for meetings. So I don't see the problem. That it is today. I mean, the only problem I could see is time. It takes time. I'm happy to give that time.
There are probably some boards that we could adjust the relationship liaison. I think the zoning hearing board is a.
So another way.
Or is it
Maybe I want
Great.
And that's in part because you have to decide whether you're gonna be a party or a threat partition. We're often an adversary.
I am certainly.
So, I mean, I think that could potentially be revised. Like there's a bunch like the neighborhood watch and police work group where it's a little less formal. There's the other ones where there's a formal board that meets. So, you know, I think it can be worked out, but I don't know, I'm on the fence in terms of removing it altogether.
I'm not removing it, so the proposal is to modify it. So rather than going to, the expectation has been set that you go to every meeting. The expectation now would be that you would interface with whoever the chair or co-chair, if the chair is not available. And that would replace that expectation that you'd be there. You can still be there, something's stopping you from doing that. The expectation is a direct, right, there's, like, it's not a mandate one way or the other, but it reframes the relationship.
Right, I wouldn't want to change it to say you have to liaise with the chair only. I would say you can either go to the meetings and do that, or you can liaise.
I like that idea.
Right.
I think that.
Well, I think that's how I kind of wrote it. I mean, like I said, I'm not tied to any sort of draft, but that's kind of what it says. And
I mean, that sounds reasonable, maybe, because that's how we kind of do it now anyway, right? You miss a meeting or can't attend or have conflict, like call up the chair, have a conversation with what you missed or staff liaison, that type of stuff. Yeah, it's reasonable.
I mean, you could even do that. You could talk to the staff liaison, because they're always there.
It's all a separate issue.
Yeah, yeah. I do notice the communications committee is now listed here. That's because when this was written, the communication.
yeah, you know, if this predates that, right? But I wouldn't have updated it.
From a legal perspective, it's not a problem as long as you keep in mind, there's never a problem with a liaison talking to a chair or staff. As long as the decisions are made in public by the board. And that the committees and advisory boards are also doing their work in public. But if the updates or what went on happens in a phone call between the liaison and the chair, there's not a problem with that. So it's really a policy decision for.
I would think for a new supervisor, it'd be valuable to be at the meetings as well. I mean, anybody who's been here 4 or 5 years, you think, oh, they know what's going on, but when you're new, you don't know any of the people, what they do, and it's really an education.
Prohibiting people from going, I think it's just.
Yeah, to be clear, this is not a.
I think it's just saying more like, it's just setting a policy. Like, I mean, there are HC meetings I've attended that have definitely been very important for me to be there, and there are some I'm just, you know, hanging out.
Right.
Like I'm just hanging out there having great conversations, but it's more internal. It's more them discussing history and things like that, and things that are very important to them about the buildings and the community. So I think, and then I touch base with Glenn a few times when I haven't attended meetings, and it's been helpful because then he'll ask me, he'll be like, the only thing I need you to do is this or this, and so I think that's kind of the relationship I think that I see with Eric, saying like, you know, there's meetings that I think are very important, and the chair might say, no, I need you to be there, there's some things we need to address with the board, or they might say, no, it's not really full. I don't know, that's just the way I see it. And it saves time for the board member, but it also allows, you know.
I mean, we can't tell each other what to do, right?
Correct.
We're independent.
You do what you want. I don't think it's telling anyone what to do.
So long as it says something to the effect of you can go to the meeting, you can talk to the chair, you can talk to the.
Correct.
The staff liaison, and you've met your whatever, you know, I think it's fine. It's up to each supervisor to decide how they handle their liaison assignment. I think if I'm putting words in your mouth, I think you're saying this is too restrictive. It's saying there's only one way to meet the requirement. You're saying.
No, this doesn't.
No, the original one said the only way to meet the
yeah.
requirement is to attend. You're saying let's broaden it so that there are other ways. I'm good with that. I don't think that should be our only way of talking with the chair.
Yeah, I mean, we could always add something to it, so this is not intended to be a prescriptive thing, I don't know, we play around with it,
Right.
Doesn't matter.
And the work groups only exist because we attend, so like the, you know, finance.
This isn't as geared to the work groups, because that's not as like,
It's for the boards.
yeah.
more efforts. So do you want to take another look at it, Eric, and then
Well,
I just want to.
Andy, what would next steps be if we wanted to?
I think if you want to tweak it to your comfort level, then it could move to an agenda item in a future meeting.
Do that, put on the next agenda.
Okay.
If anyone has any like changes or anything, just let me know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I personally love having you guys at our meeting. It really helps us to have that relationship with you. I think that you go to bat for us because you're there and you see everything that's going on. That's mine. I think it was really valuable to have you guys there.
And I don't disagree. I think there are meetings I have attended where I'm just kind of like
Oh, I'm
a
sure.
spectator.
Are you reading
You don't know
it?
that, yeah.
But like, no, and that's why I'm saying it'd be nice to talk to the chair and be like, okay, so can you give me a little background on the agenda today, you know, gonna be coming up and, you know, whether. What, you know, whether that meeting, I just think it's easier for both sides even. But yeah, I mean,
I mean, I'm just expressing, you know, from a chair and a commission member's point of view. It's very valuable having you guys around.
When I first joined the board, I thought I was interfering when I showed up at meetings, right? And then I slowly realized over time that they appreciate us showing up and they appreciate us listening and what.
I think mostly staff wasn't attending either.
Right.
So initially, when I started here, these things were just happening satellite.
Right.
Now there's a little more formality. I think there's better communication. And my observation is that what you're getting now is the input from them on substantive matters. So it's not just pleasantries that they're taking up substantive matters and giving you some input on substantive matters, which is very valuable.
I don't want to name any names, but there was a project that one of the boards took on, got involved with one of the staff members and got along very far in it without ever involving the management of the township. And it turned into a blow up at some point because people had spent an incredible amount of time doing an incredible amount of work, really good work, without considering all the implications of it. And so it's really good to have staff there, to have the liaison there to make sure that that doesn't happen. And it hasn't happened since I've been on the board.
Yeah, appreciate it. We think it's helpful, so all good.
Yeah, you can't change that.
That's important.
Really important.
I've seen that firsthand, especially John, AC meetings, I mean, very valuable, to be there and guidance.
And it gives him his to-do list for the next day. Okay.
All right, okay, so moving on to liaison work group reports. I have not heard from the business association, they've been kind of just. My understanding. Now, I do try to keep in touch with Stacy. I haven't talked to her recently, but I'm trying to get an update. I know that she's not technically the business association anymore, but I am following the mural. The whole thing. I know it's getting there. I know there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So I know it was getting a lot of people were giving their opinions on things, but I think it's moving in the right direction now. So something I'll be checking in on soon. Good. Citizens Communication Advisory Board.
I was not able to attend the meeting this month.
ECAC.
The last meeting was July 13th. A lot of the discussion was around the projects and the implications to, you know, us making our decision tonight, the impact that would have on future. I've come to terms with that. understand there's only so much we can ever do, and this is such an important thing that we're doing, you know, so. But I get their point. And that's about it. I know there were other, but there's all 5 projects we're working on, but that was the big one.
EMA?
EMA met, we already talked about a bunch of the topics. It was the FSA, debt service and everything related to that. There were other items, but nothing pertinent I'll bring up here.
Good, thank you. Environmental Advisory Council,
They meet tomorrow.
Finance Work Group,
We met and I didn't take notes. And I said that at the meeting, but I didn't take notes.
We discussed a couple of financial matters relating to EIT was brought in and stuff.
EIT year-to-date forecast, wonky.
Audit, yeah.
Audit.
The audits.
EIT was 700K above, beyond what we had
Yeah,
projected.
somewhere
last
around
year.
that is the target amount, so, Q5 came in strong. Q1 came in stronger, and so, at this point, the projection is that you're about 800,000. If it proceeds the way I expect it, you'd be on a revenue variance north of 700,000.
That'll help a lot at that service. That was a statement.
Teague Fire Commission.
We met last Wednesday. Number of minor issues on nothing.
How are are they still
Interviews, yeah.
interviewing?
Yes, yeah, that process is going along. I think last week, was it last week or this week they're doing the interviews with, I'm sorry.
This Wednesday.
This Wednesday, they're doing the interviews with the chiefs and we've got a committee with outside people to come in. There's 3 people at this point. Based on that, they'll present the top 3 to the TEFC full board on the 11th. Is it still the 11th?
I don't.
Okay. I think it's gonna get changed. It may get changed. But that's the time frame.
Okay. HC met on the 9th of July. They reviewed the system permits, historic inventory, which is going along. Correct me if I'm wrong, but seems to be doing well. John?
I wasn't there. I didn't get an update.
Oh, yeah, so
The meeting, we're setting up a meeting with them, JMT.
next week.
Great.
Oh, was it? Okay, I didn't see that.
There's a Roughwood update. I guess it's up for sale.
Yes.
Again?
Well, it's like not even done.
It's gutted.
It's like gutted.
Gutted.
Where was the seeds?
It's
Pardon me?
Where is the
Roughwood.
I don't know. Oh, I forget where the seeds are.
Now. It's like renovating it. He came to so many meetings and there were so many discussions, and now he's like, I don't know what's going on.
There's something.
Yeah.
Something.
Wow.
So it's up for sale for a lot of money. It's gutted.
Where is that?
Is it old?
It's on Old
Lancaster.
Lancaster, right by, St. Luke's.
Right, the property is partially in Easttown, partially in.
It's that old building with the 2-story.
It used to be orange. Orange with the green.
And he's given up. I was so excited that somebody's gonna move in there.
It needs a.
Well, kick
It's
somebody.
almost move-in ready.
That's a joke.
No, it's
Put it on the inside.
Windows.
Was.
like, bring your plans.
Yeah.
Very disturbing, but anyway.
Looks a little bit like an episode of This Old House.
What a pity.
Well, and all the oaky woodwork is probably gone, and that, maybe somebody else would have kept.
It may be.
Anyway.
There's a new member of HC introduced, and we had at last meeting, we had approved her, and then historical markers program discussions. There was still a discussion about some of the historical markers and new ones that are going to be put in place. And that was the meeting.
I was at Devon Family Practice this morning and I saw a historical marker together. I think there's that was cool.
That's the first one. That's the very first one we put up, Devon Inn.
Devon Inn, yeah, that was it, yeah.
Library Board of Trustees, you attended, am I right?
This past one?
Yeah.
That was one before that.
Well, they didn't meet in July. The only thing that they had a meeting for was they had a meeting for approving the feasibility, the group that's gonna do the feasibility study. But didn't you go to the one before that? June?
I have to go look at my notes.
Can I add?
Yeah, you can add.
Kathy Lewis from the library
So I
board.
was there in June.
the summer's a big time at the library. We got a grant from Flight, which we've gotten since 2012. And that it provides enough literature for kids, 600 to 800 kids for their readings in the summer. The summer reading program has really gotten going. We have almost 400 kids, but it's not just limited to kids who are in it. Last time there were only 200. So it's really a great program to help kids for the summer. And that's what I did want to add. I know I joined the summer reading program for adults. We all can read. And so come in, you can win prizes also. And it's a great thing. And that's about it. But it's a great thing to be in the things of the summer. Oh, sorry, I did bring one other thing. There's a petting zoo this Wednesday. Anybody who wants to come or bring kids.
I'll be there.
Okay,
No, I'm coming, seriously. Bring it.
11 to 1. So it's a great time to be at the library in the summer.
Andy's coming too, he said.
I would like to.
And there's Amber's update is also attached to the library section of our.
Yeah, great.
Things as well. Great. So a lot going on at the library as usual.
Yep.
Okay, Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, we were going to meet tomorrow, but then that was canceled, but we had a really successful 4th of July event at Johnson's Park, and I really appreciate that the police had their little booth there. That was really great. But it was extremely successful.
Susan was working all of this.
Yes.
She's going from one place to the other, carrying ice.
I showed up and just walked around. Susan, every time I look at Susan, you're carrying something, you're doing.
Doing a lot of stuff.
I tried to help.
Pension work group. Like we didn't meet her.
It only meets, it meets quarterly, it's got one coming up with whatever periodicity.
Yeah. Planning commission.
Planning Commission, mostly we talked about the presentation that was this evening. And we chose 3 options that we wanted them to work further on, and you approved those 3 options for Old Lancaster.
Police work group.
We didn't meet, but the one thing is, the CBA is finalized. And so remember, we had approved the hiring of 2 people, one to replace Dave and one as an additional traffic officer. So I believe they're moving forward with that.
Are accepting resumes for you.
Yeah, I saw the advertising.
And I know you guys have time to reschedule the meetings because I can't make the 10 a.m. Tuesday, so we'll figure it out. We'll talk.
Public works.
That's me.
Yeah, you met with Joe.
I met with Joe.
Yeah.
And I did take notes. Public Works work group. Friday, July 10th. The road program's all done, so everything's good there. All the roads have been updated. There's this, we bought an AI program to run around the township and look at all the roads with a video, and then AI analyzes it to say which roads are in good shape, which roads need help. So we'll have a better handle on the quality of our report.
When is that gonna be done? I'm sorry, sir.
The AI program,
Yeah,
it wasn't started yet, but soon.
Yeah, summer, the target completion is summer,
that's exciting.
so that's ending soon, that's 6 weeks out.
Yeah, and Joe had a sheet on his desktop with all the things that have been done. It's amazing the stuff that they're doing. They just done a lot of stuff, right? And I go, wow, that's a lot of stuff. And he goes, oh, that's only the first sheet. So they're just doing a lot of stuff. We talked about Heatherwood, and I was at the AMA discussed that. The past meeting.
Yeah, so that's the idea of taking the parcel that you own and converting it into some kind of low intensity pocket park. EMA endorsed it, provided that it doesn't compromise the sewer capability, and there's just no compromise to the sewer capability.
And the second Parks and Rec person we hired is fitting right in and getting a lot of it done and very active and almost to this point independent. So that's working out well. Talked about the
Yeah, changed the culture a little bit. You know, we talked about this, which is what we wanted to communicate, that we're trying to get out ahead of things. We're not waiting for somebody to call and complain. So particularly road stuff, site obstructions, things of that sort. We're getting out on them early, getting them done. That's helpful.
There was a surplus last year with the sewer fees. And then I got into talking about SMAC. Is that coming?
That's the next one, but.
Okay, bring it up then. And that's what I wanted to talk about. Are you ready to talk about that?
Yeah, it's up.
Okay, so I started talking to Joe about it, what do they do and everything, and they come up with a lot of ideas, but we generally never agree, unless it's like $10,000, we don't agree to it. Right, so maybe they need to present, and we need to just consider a source of funding for stormwater management. Because right now, we're never going to approve any of their big projects, I don't think, so.
I mean, in lieu of a big project, one of the things that they proposed the last 2 years in a row was the arms, the automatic arms that kind of come in, and they got, removed out of the budget, for both of them. I mean, that's the consequence when you make this decision. So if we want to give them projects to do, I think that would be a slam dunk. There's 2 different sites where they want to propose that.
Right. And they have to be responsible and all that, and we have to approve it. But there was a big open question about stormwater management, is it a fee or a tax? That got decided, I think, by the Supreme Court.
It's a tax.
It's a tax. So, but that means it clears the air. We know if we're going to do it, we know what to do. If that's some direction we want to take.
I mean, it's not catastrophic for our township because I don't think we don't have Westchester in our, township, but it's still devastating. So the areas that are impacted by it.
Yes. And again, it's 3 or 4 years ago, we had terrible stormwater problems on a pretty regular basis. Since then, solely because it hasn't rained, we haven't had any. So as far as I know, so the question is, do we want to?
Yeah, basically municipalities that have like a Westchester or something that's not, typically taxed, they can levy a fee against them instead of they can't levy a tax against them. So Westchester sued that there was a stormwater fee that was being levied upon them, and it just got decided a few months ago, right? That it was deemed a tax, not a fee, so it can't be levied against.
Westchester University.
I'm sorry, yes, Westchester University.
Versus the borough.
Correct. So the university could not be levied the tax. So that's also applicable to churches. It's also applicable to anyone else that's tax exempt. They will not be paying, a stormwater fee or other fees. It's deemed as a tax.
The irony is the legislature was encouraging municipalities to do this, or even create special purpose entities to do it. And now the Supreme Court is essentially, you can argue Westchester is fact specific, but I think your high level summary is correct, that the safe path, if you're doing stormwater improvements in your community, is to do it through your general real estate millage. And that would mean that in the case of Westchester, the university is exempt, so they're not gonna pay for it.
Right. So we just have to decide, and I think they have to present to us, we have to decide, do we want to fund it, or do we want to just, where does that go?
Yeah, they can have a little discussion about their mission too, because they've gone through what this would be like the third phase. They started mostly in response to those catastrophes. Now you came up with a protocol, so you're not involving yourself on most of those sort of property specific ones. They shifted to MS4, which is very valuable because otherwise that's the only place that whole thing is being debated. So they could expand beyond MS4. Right now they don't have much that they do beyond those 2 items. Joe and I have talked about that being a discussion for them. Their mandate is broader. It can involve anything involving stormwater.
Brings us to the public comment, public comment. Okay,
We do have exec session that we want to share things with you.
That's on.
We're gonna discuss litigation matters. And
HR.
Don't know if Don has personnel or.
Yes,
Personnel as well.
Yeah, okay. Announcements and meetings and events are located on our new website. Shall we adjourn?
Thanks.